Yes.
Sound good.
All right, cool. This is session one of, I think we're recording now. Okay, we'll start over. This is Dungeon World, Legerdemain, session one. I am going to go through our cats procedure. Pay pretty close attention here because it's a slightly different Dungeon World frame than we normally do. So concept, aim, tone, and subject matter. Cats. The concept. Dungeon World, of course, is a D&D inspired fantasy game that is barely powered by the apocalypse. Songs of the Shadow Court is the name of the campaign we're playing, and this particular series is called Legerdemain. Songs of the Shadow Court, the idea is the player characters are these operatives who work for this organization called the Shadow Court. The Shadow Court has there are layers of motives and goals, right? And any individual operative doesn't know all the different layers of planning and scheming that goes on within the Shadow Court. At the most basic level, it is a group of organization that has outposts in every major city that day to day they take money, they receive payment and do jobs for infiltration type missions, thieving things, burgling, sometimes assassinations, coordinating, it can be really big things like coordinating the downfall of a king or something like that, right? The idea is that your player characters are highly competent. It is a little bit more like a spy series, or it's very mission based, right? This is not like a dungeon crawl dungeon world. That's not really what we're doing. Although in the last series there was like a straight up dungeon crawl, but it was dungeon crawling inside a house. So the dungeon was just like a house that they were kind of moving around in. But it's not like we are delving into the dungeon and we brought our 10-foot pole and our torch and we're gonna, just take the monsters as they come. It's not like that. You go into a mission knowing the basic parameters of what's about to happen to you, okay? And you can be somewhat prepared beforehand. We'll learn more about the Shadow Court as we go, but basically the basic lore and mythology of the Shadow Court, it all comes from the previous campaign called We Hunt the Keepers. And you can delve into that as you wish. You don't need to know it for right now. For right now, all you know is that you are highly adept operative type characters who do missions for this organization called Shadow Court. Our specific setting is a city called Eagle's Reach. We'll talk about Eagle's Reach in a minute. Our aim for today is the first session of any series for me is more about like seeing your characters as individuals and discovering what they're like as individuals. And so we're going to first introduce the characters. I will set up the basics of a mission that you guys are right in the middle of. Okay, so we're going to have a sort of an extended and medias res sequence that we're going to go through that will take up the bulk of the session. I'll kind of set that up for you guys, ask you some questions. We'll take a short break so you can, go to the bathroom and think about the answers to those questions. We'll come back. We'll play through that extended sequence. There may or may not be a break in there. I don't know, but it depends on how long it takes. After that sequence is over, we'll have a bit of downtime, and I have a very specific downtime procedure for Songs of the Shadow Court, which I will present at that time. And we'll take a longer break because I'm going to pose some really, really particular questions about your character and how they exist and live in the city of Eagle's Reach. And we'll take a longer break at that time so you guys can think about the answers. We'll come back, we'll share those things, and that should be the totality of the session. The actual Legerdemain proper, that actual adventure begins next week. The tone of the adventure is it should be serious and mission oriented, but obviously there's going to be, there's plenty of room for like mirth and merrymaking and stuff in between you all as you see fit. I will be maintaining a serious tone, except when I'm not, and hopefully, the idea is we don't have to force comedy and humor. Comedy and humor will happen naturally, so just please do that. Subject matter wise, I don't anticipate anything particularly gnarly happening in terms of like sexual assault. I don't anticipate anything like torture or like murder of children or anything like that. In any case, if you guys have any particular things you'd like to put across, put behind a line that you don't want to do, For me, sexual assault is one of the things I don't like to explore in gaming, unless the game is like very explicitly about that. If you have one of those things you'd like to throw out there, even if it's just a small thing that just triggers you in some way, put it out there now. I'll give you a minute to think about it. Otherwise, we're going to have the X card available.
I don't really enjoy like violence to animals on screen, sort of, as it were. Like the result of violence or dead animals that we just sort of see and don't talk about too much detail of, that's fine, but the action, I really...
When you say animals, do you mean like pet animals like cats and dogs, or
yeah. Like monsters are certainly one thing,
okay.
and sort of food animals are
Right.
in a sort of middle tolerable zone. But yeah, as we
Okay.
get into like things you could easily attach emotions to.
So if the evil wizard summons a dire wolf, you're not going to have a problem with that.
No, as long as it's like
All right.
spiky and snarly and awful. Yeah.
Okay, right. That sounds good.
What about the ranger's animal companion?
Yeah, I was gonna say, I have the idea for my animal companion is that it is very emotional and somewhat tragic. Is that going to be a problem? Do I need to change that now?
There's always the rule of if it's important enough for drama, that sort of tilts the scales the other way. So as long as it's like a high emotional moment and we don't get into deep descriptions of viscera and stuff like that, I'll probably be okay.
Well, why don't we just say the X card's available? So if something happens that anyone's not comfortable with, or you're uncomfortable in an unfun way, go ahead and just say X card, type it in the chat, or press the button on roll, and we will stop and we'll fix it then. It sounds like we have like some gray area there with that one. So because there will be like sort of like beasts right in the game.
Yeah,
that's kind of unavoidable in the genre. Okay. Anything else?
I will say that right now that my character is kind of bloody, so if you feel uncomfortable, please use the X card.
Fantastic. Okay. If there's nothing else, like I said, X card's available. So let's go ahead and do character introductions. I want to just go in the order of the sheet here, and this can be super sketchy. I mostly am just interested in your basic idea of your character. If you have any moves you want to highlight that are particularly important to you, if they're important to why you chose the playbook, you might call those out. And then we'll talk about your flags as well. I may have follow-up questions throughout this process, but if anybody else has any follow-up questions, just interrupt and just ask them, okay? Let's start with Gunter. Maria, please tell us about Gunter.
Gunter is an older gentleman. His clothes are covered in blood. He carries around a bunch of like satchels and backpacks and stuff. He is a disciple. He considers himself a crusader of the bloody way. And you can see why, because of his whole attire. But moves to highlight, he has lay on hands. He has sacrifice, which is when he touches someone and makes a demand of them, they get bonuses if they follow through. And then spill the blood, which happens when I deal damage to an enemy, and then I can cash in that blood to heal myself or someone else. He carries around a handkerchief with the blood stains of all his traveling companions, both past and current, and himself, kind of like a bonding weird thing.
It's totally a bonding thing, right?
Yes.
What are your flags?
Sorry?
Your flags?
Oh, flags, right. Take my order to do something that seems stupid or reckless, regardless of whether it actually is. Make it dangerous for me to help you, and offer me a high-risk, high-reward plan that I can't resist.
That last one will be really salient for this series, I think. Good. Okay, so last series we had a character who was a pit fighter, and it was a pit fighter, not the kind of profession that is a sort of like that the Shadow Court like normally hires. You know, they go for more sneaky types, they go for more shadowy types normally, or highly skilled, particularly skilled people, right? Like the Artificers, right? But, you know, there's use for all kinds of people. One of the things that the reason why they had this pit fighter serving them was because they basically they were basically extorting the pit fighter. Like they were holding all of his debt essentially, and were gradually paying his debt off, like as he did missions for them. How do you think that your character, being this very extreme, very combat oriented, very bloody character, I imagine you stand out in a crowd. How did you come to be associated with the Shadow Court?
I think it's due to happenings of the church that explained in the previous campaign, but it's probably related to, like, they want to kill him off somehow. So the church at least wants to kill him off. So they sent him as an operative to the Shadow Court. Hopefully he'll self-destruct.
Yeah, that's something you guys should know. The Shadow Court is ostensibly, notionally, an arm of the church that's dominant in this world. It is the Shadow Court very much has its own like aims and aspirations, right? Technically, officially, they are part of the church. That's a fair point. There are numbers of these different like organizations which are called courts, which are connected to the church in theory, but also are at war with one another in some ways as well. So just to highlight the sort of like vast sprawling nature of the church, which dominates life. Okay. Okay, good. So basically they're just hoping to kill you. Okay, good. I'm into this. I think this is an interesting idea. We'll see how it works out. I don't have any other questions. If anybody else does, jump in there. All right. Pablo, please tell us about Nico von Smaug.
So I'm playing Nico von Smaug, the Artificer. I totally envision this character as the concept of like a quite steampunky inventor. He's a very small posture, but wearing a top hat. His shoulder guard, which has some strange metal going on and around them, and he's like, I think he stands out because he has all these crazy devices on him and with him. So far, I'm not really sure who he really is. I haven't given this. I didn't have much ideas. I think he's chaotic. He likes to use his gadgets to exceed what they are meant to do. So that's his nature. And I have some ideas. How can I use this? Use my gadget to do more than they are just how they are constructed. But if you have some crazy ideas, I'm always willing to give them a shot. And I totally imagine that Nico von Smaug ended up in Shadow Court because those were the last people who were willing to employ him. He was probably selling some inventions to rich people, and some of those inventions, I don't know, blew up, didn't work, and I envision that this was the last person who was willing to employ him. The Shadow Court.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, someone, some handler in the Shadow Court saw potential in your talent, right? In your particularized talent. So that makes a lot of sense. Fantastic. And what are your flags?
My flags are call me a coward to get me to follow you into a dangerous situation. I envision Nico as he's more inventor than a fighter, so he might be afraid of just going straight into swords and slashing. So feel free to call him a coward, and then he might comply. Get into dangerous situations so that they can protect you from. I think Nico cares more about people he's working with than about himself. So he's really willing to go into big lands to help others. And tell me a lie, I totally think that Nico is like very easy to lie to, and he will believe whatever you tell him.
Yeah, kind of naive. I like that. Fantastic. I don't think I have any other questions. That's a good starting point. We'll figure out more as we play. Anybody else have any questions? Okay, moving right along. Well, Aupri is a returning character. I know a lot about Aupri, but Aaron, introduce Aupri for the benefit of the current party.
Hello, Aupri is a scion, and she is, sorry, getting my notes. She was left at a traveling circus as a child. She was raised in the circus. She was trained by a fortune teller in her skills, and in our last mission, she died and went to the Black Gates and came back a broken shell of a person. And so she's perhaps a little bit darker these days. I'm not sure. We'll see how that plays. And so her flags are convince me to trust you. So one of the characters from the last mission, we both had Black Gates scenarios, and I think the assumption from Aupri was that that character also took some deal and now distrusts the world, perhaps. Yeah, that's what I got.
Did you mention that they were a former circus performer? I don't know if you said that or not. Yeah, you did. Yeah. And also very short, right? I always imagined you like quite short. Was that wrong? Or
Yeah, young, beautiful, short. Kind of like doesn't seem like they belong in a circus in sort of like traditional, like in a traditional sense, but sort of found her life there.
Nice, good. All right.
I have a question.
Flags? Oh, yeah, go ahead. Well, I was just going to go through the flags, but go ahead, Maria. What's your question?
What was your deal with death?
I had to, at that point, I had stolen the bone crown of old King Smaug, and I had to return said crown. So, you're welcome.
It to death because it's still in your character sheet, or to old King Smaug.
Oh, yeah, I'll take that out.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, old King Smaug was like a lich in the earth who is slowly gathering his forces to rain terror on things. The last group interrupted this. They kind of showed up a little early to all that for reasons that I'm not going to go into right now. Aupri stole the bone crown, and Death was basically like, "Hey, go give it back." So, and Aupri took that deal, and so that storyline proceeds apace. Fantastic, I love it. Let's go to let's talk about your flags first, Aupri. What are your flags?
My flags convince me to trust you. Participate in wild and unlikely schemes with me when we're in a pinch. I feel this is more of her moving towards the sort of frenetic, less thoughtful kind of scion that she might have been in the last session, and tease out information about why I left the circus.
Fantastic. Awesome. All right, David, tell us about Shep, please.
So Shep is our ranger. He's old. You don't get to be an old. Not many people get to be an old ranger. So that is his competence. That's what he's done his whole life. And he's a lithe body, tired eyes, hooded head, camouflage clothing. He has been doing this for a very long time with his faithful animal companion. And if their scheme of naming parallels our world's scheme of naming, this will tell you how long he and his animal companion have been in the business. He has named her Maud because he thought that was a pretty name back then. But as far as Maud goes, I had a really particular idea that it would be an animal that does not exist in our world, but does exist in other fictional spaces. If you're not cool with this, then I can change it to something a little easier to understand. But have you ever heard of a Billy Bumbler?
Nope.
Okay. It's like a cross between a dog and a raccoon, and then it has like the loyalty of a dog, but like the body of or most similar to a raccoon, and then it has like speaking capacity of like an 18-month-old, so it could potentially like bark out like your name if it was trying to get your attention, but that's about the extent of it.
Okay. So I guess like, I mean, you don't have your ranger, you don't have your animal stats in here. So like, what's its kind of main? How does it serve you? What's its main sort of function?
It can scout and it can guard and then it can also do the one that all of them can do and fight humanoids.
Okay. So it looks like a raccoon, but also like a dog.
It looks like a raccoon, but kind of acts more loyal like a dog.
Okay. And it can and it can say words.
It can kind of like bark out like a word, like if
Okay,
it's trying to get your attention.
Parrot. So
like a parrot. Yeah.
a dog raccoon parrot.
Yeah, except it doesn't just like blurt out like things it's been trained to say. It actually like is trying to like accomplish something by barking out whatever it's barking out.
So you have taught it like a sort of basic, like kind of a sort of basic sort of linguistic, I guess, right?
Yeah, and yeah, that's what I spent my cunning, or no, that's what I spent my the strength on, was to make it smart instead of anything else. So that's what it can do.
Particular fiction, or is it?
Yeah, it's from Stephen King, Dark Tower.
Got it. Okay.
Is that all right? Or I could just make it
as long as we call it something different, because this will be released in the public space at some point in the future. So, let's see. All right.
But Mod can scout, guard, and attack humanoids. But Mod is broken. We've been doing this a long time, and Mod has been hurt by monsters, and that's why she won't attack monsters anymore.
Oh, okay. That's a good little point of a thing that we can push on if we need to. What are your flags?
So my flags are: try to convince me to lead despite my constant gruff refusals to do so, and then talk to my animal companion about me when I'm not around to hear it.
Okay, I like that. Talk to Maud.
Yeah.
About you. Okay, good. All right, I like that. All right, good. Fantastic. I'm going to think about Maud and how to characterize that. But it's like a raccoon dog thing. Okay, I'm into that. Good. I don't think I have any other questions. Well, I am curious, like, how you got roped up with the Shadow Court. Have you always worked for them, or is this like a new thing?
I think this is mine and Maud's last go around the track. Like, we just need the payout from this one last job, and then we can retire.
Okay, good. So you've got a week left to retirement. Yeah, good. All right. Sounds good. Fantastic. Well, in that case, let's learn about Corwin. Patrick, please tell us about Corwin.
So Corwin, he's a human thief. Tends towards black and silver and sort of fancy for clothing. Mid to late 30s. Fairly handsome, dark hair. But he, stealing from books and going with easy storylines because I didn't have a lot of time to put together a complicated character, but basically has amnesia. Had woke up a couple of months ago in a hospital or mental institution or fictionally appropriate equivalent, not really knowing who he was or where he was from, but with a lot of skills from a previous life. So I'm interested in playing with like either lots of connections from his past showing up or people knowing more about him than he does. I'm imagining for a general background template like powerful noble family, lots of siblings and members, complicated intrigues. It's sort of the touchstones there.
I love it. Yeah, that's good.
And we can figure out what the details of it are as things trigger memories or people show up and say mysterious things to me, whatever. My flags are he's got sort of a unexpected set of skills and a bit of an adrenaline junkie streak. So I've got make it dangerous for me to help you, because it'd be boring if it was easy, and ask me to do something daring and acrobatic. And then my third flag is to help me uncover details from my shattered memories, which I don't think I've had much success in uncovering solid information so far. And I think as far as the Shadow Court, like it's probably them dangling the promise of information that they have or ways they can help me recover my memories or something like that. They can unlock my past for me.
Yeah, like this character is shadow court as fuck. Because basically what we know from the last, from the last campaign, Weary, which was the only member of the shadow court we knew at that time, the shadow court basically like reset him every time. He was truly like a sort of like Manchurian Candidate type character, right? Like kind of injected into situations with no real bearings for himself, right? And that's really interesting. It probably means you are the most like directly manipulated person by your handlers of this group.
Yeah, I'm good with that.
Yeah, and so good. I don't think I have any other questions. Anybody else have any questions for anyone before we begin?
I have like a general question about flags. I only read about them, never seen them in them work.
Oh yeah, so let's talk about it. So basically the way flags go is you, at the end of the session, we don't do bonds. So at the end of the session where it normally says, did you resolve the bond? Instead, we replace that with, did you trigger someone's flag? The goal is you are looking at other characters' flags. You're looking for an opportunity to do that thing on their flag, right? And the easiest way to do it, and what I highly recommend, and I'm totally cool with, is you just call for a scene. So you can say, hey, I'd like to have a scene where I go hit this flag. You can be really explicit about it like that, okay? So, hey, I'm super interested in Maria's flag about, let me just pick one here, Gunter. I'm really interested in Gunter's flag that says, offer me a high-risk, high-reward plan that I can't resist. Can I frame up we talk about that plan, right? That kind of thing. And so we'll do that, or we'll find a place to do that. Sometimes hitting a flag comes up just in the middle of the action too, and that's okay as well. But it's totally cool to like really aggressively frame toward hitting that flag. I'm totally cool with that, and I encourage it. The idea with the flags as a sort of in a cosmic sense or a philosophical sense is you are inviting the other players to engage with your character in the way that you find interesting about your character. Okay, and the XP reward goes to the person who hits the flag, not the person whose flag is hit. So, is that good? Or?
Yep.
All right, cool. Any other questions? Okie doke. So the first mission is really interesting in the context of all of your characters, because the big open question will be, why were the group of you chosen to do this based off the nature of the mission? And I don't know. I guess we'll find out. There's probably a really fun story there, but it is we'll talk about the mission. So I'm going to give you guys just sort of the brief, like the sort of contours of it. You're each going to have one preparation, which you can note somewhere on your sheet. Preparation comes from the bolster move on the special moves section of the play sheets. Basically, you can spend a preparation to get a +1 forward on the roll you're about to do. You have to spend it before you roll. And you have to tell us how you prepared for this moment. Alternatively, for Songs of the Shadow Court, you can spend the preparation to have a flashback scene a la Blades in the Dark. You can have a flashback scene where you show us taking some kind of action to bypass the problem that you're currently faced with, or to solve something that you're currently faced with. And then we sort of like retcon the fiction a little bit to make whatever's happening fit the narrative of your flashback. Okay. You only get the +1 forward in the moment, though. You can get the +1 forward right now, or you can do a flashback, right? And if any moves get triggered in the flashback, they're just rolled in the normal way. But the idea here is we want to see your characters. We want to see your characters being highly competent, being highly prepared for the thing that they're doing. Okay. And any other like little special things? I don't think so. So you have a preparation. Note that somewhere. And let's talk about Eagle's Reach first, the city. So you're in the great city of Eagle's Reach. It's called Eagle's Reach because it's a city at a fairly high elevation. If you think like Denver, Colorado, okay, in the States, it's in the mountains. It's a major crossroads of trade, and it's quite a big city. You can have access to most services. You have access to most types of, well, really almost anything you can think of, you can get in Eagle's Reach, right? If it makes sense to be in a city, it's there. It is, it's a merchant. It has a very strong merchant class, Eagle's Reach does. There is an elected burgomaster, I guess, kind of thing, like a mayoral position, right? But that person is always chosen from the class of merchants. We have seen Eagle's Reach before in We Hunt the Keepers, but only briefly. We're going to get to see a little bit more of it now. So those are the basics. It's always kind of cold just because of its elevation. And so that's something you should also know, just sort of aesthetically. And I think that's all we need to know about the city. There is a Shadow Court temple in the city where you check in periodically to both get your missions and also to get paid. And we'll have scenes there later as we need. But right now you're right in the middle of a mission, and I'm going to explain kind of what's going on. I'm going to ask each of you where you're at the start, just in time and space, where you're located and like what your basic sort of thing is. That noise. And then I'll have a couple of questions to ask you guys, and then we'll take a break. I'm going to wait for this noise to stop. I don't know what it is. Can you guys hear it? It's really bugging me. You guys can't hear it. If you can't hear it, I'm going to keep going, but I'll just deal with it. So there's a masquerade ball taking place in Eagle's Reach. This masquerade ball is being hosted by one of the lords, a retired merchant, enjoying his life, spending his riches, throwing parties and celebrating. And at this ball, your handlers have learned that the Phantom Court, a rival court that focuses on assassinations, the Phantom Court has an operative at this masquerade ball whose intention is to murder someone. Your handlers in the Shadow Court want you to stop this assassination. The tricky thing about this is it's unclear why they're interested in saving this person's life, because they won't even tell you who the target is. They may not even know who the target is. It could just be they want to just fuck with the Phantom Court a little bit. But your mission is to basically suss out this assassin from the Phantom Court, and also figure out who they were targeting at the party, so that you can warn them that someone has engaged the Phantom Court to kill them. All right. So those are the things that you need to know, the basics of the mission. The party itself is a masquerade ball. There is a point early in the party where everyone is kind of arriving. Many people are wearing masks. Many people are not, but everyone has their invitation. People who don't have a mask will be greeted everyone gets greeted by the person who's throwing the party, a minor merchant lord named Lord Caspian Gaul. He will pick out a mask for people who didn't bring a mask, based off a series of questions he'll ask you. And so people will be kind of filing in. You all can be positioned wherever you want. You can be a servant working the party or pretending to be a servant. You can be a guard. You can be an attendee. You will have invitations if you want them to the party. You can be the entertainment, possibly, if that's your jam. In any case, I want to go around the table and I want to find out where you think you would be at the start of the party as people are arriving. So let's find that out first. Whoever has any ideas, just throw them out there.
I'll just be standing next to Caspian Gaul, like I've got my hood up on my cloak, and Maud is just like around my neck, almost like she's a fur. But you know how older animals can just somehow make themselves very flat somehow, like that's what Maud is doing. But she'll likely be mistaken as a fur, but she's in fact alive. And I'm just I'm there because I think that, you know, if there's going to be a target, they're either going to come through the front door and I'll see them, or they're going to go for Gaul, so I should stay near him and I'll see them.
Do you think Caspian Gaul might be the target? You don't know that for sure, but you think
I don't know. That's just my guess because it's his party, and it seems at least like a very likely target.
How are you justifying your presence to Lord Caspian Gaul? Like, have you told him we think there's going to be an assassination, or what?
Yeah, I think I was just straightforward about it.
Okay, and so he's letting you just kind of like stand nearby, like to watch things. That's okay. I just want to make sure that's what's going on.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Like,
So
I think I've just told him, like, we have it on reliable source that, like, there might be an assassination attempt of somebody tonight, and I want to make sure that your lordship is protected.
All right, we'll talk about that. We may have that scene, but I just want to kind of figure out. That's a great idea. Anybody else have any thoughts where they might be at the start?
I think Corwin would be actually attending.
Okay.
So he'll be there in, like I said, very rich clothing, black sort of silks and velvets, embroidered in, I think, like silver rose patterns. And I think when he gets there, he'd probably do some crowd hunting to find like the queen social bitch of the ball.
Good, yeah.
And he's going to hone in on her mousy, him. He's going to hone in on their mousy second, basically. Their younger sibling or friend who doesn't get as much attention. Because I want someone who's keyed in on all the gossip, but maybe has some self-esteem issues. So it'll be easy to manipulate. So basically, I'm approaching them, and I think as we start, the two of us will be dancing and sort of chatting them up.
No, I love it. That's good. So you're kind of going with the like sort of get in with the gossipy crowd and see what you can learn kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
That's fabulous. Any other thoughts? Aupri, where will you be?
I have two ideas. The first is I think I'm on like a receiving line of some sort, and I think Aupri is trying to. She's like jumping between minds. She's trying to shake hands with everybody, touch skin to skin, and just try to like clue in. Okay, where are you at right now?
Use your psychic powers to figure it out. Yeah,
right.
No, I'm into it. Fabulous. Yeah. What about you, Nico?
I think Nico is an attendee, and because he haven't been on such a party for quite some time, I totally imagine that he's where the beverages are, and he tries to position himself so that he can watch the crowd, but maybe he's a little bit occupied with just, oh, this little piece of cake, oh, a little wine, and he's just like trying to do his job, look around, but oh my god, this table is so full of cool stuff.
Good. An attendee, very good, fabulous. And what about you, Gunter? I assume you're not showing up in your bloody clothes, but maybe you are. I don't know.
I am. I'm the janitor.
Oh, nice. Okay, good. You are. So you're cleaning up. Nice.
Yes.
That'll be fun because I think some people might be like, why are your clothes bloody? That could be a great conversation.
Yeah, is that effective? Like, can you clean up, or do you just leave a trail of blood behind you?
I assume it's not like fresh blood.
No, it's not fresh.
Okay.
Unless there's combat, it's not fresh.
Yeah, nice. Maybe I imagine there's going to be a lot of like, oh, did you just like slaughter the pig we're going to eat or something like that, right? There's probably like a lot.
Yeah, that could work.
Fabulous. I have a couple of painting the scene questions for you all. Then we're going to take a quick break. The first, okay, so this party is, Lord Caspian Gaul made his money as a merchant. He's done very well. He has no heirs. He never married. He has no heirs. He's blowing all of his money on parties and fabulousness before he dies. And so basically, this party is very decadent. There is a sort of decadence to it. I want to know what you all see, either as you arrive or just that you're aware of or whatever, or just something that the camera sees as it pans around the room. What do we see in the sort of main ballroom area that indicates just how decadent this party is? That's the first question. The second question is, Lord Caspian Gaul is very short, and I mean really short. He's not a gnome or a dwarf or anything like that, or a halfling. He's just a really short human, and like just barely over 4 feet tall. I want to know what you see in or around his manse that is a reminder of just how short he is, right? So think of the answers to those questions. We're going to frame up some scenes when we get back and get this mission going. We'll take 5. Okay. All right. So it looks like we're all back. Yeah. Looks like we're all back.
I can hear that now.
Yeah, I know. I know. Like this. I'm waiting, hoping it will be over soon. Okay. Anyway. So
Boo!
It's just that kind of day. It's that kind of session. All right. Anyway. So we are going to begin with the party here. All right. So Aupri, you're working the line. Is this like an entertainment type thing? Like, are you being just kind of like a clown or something, or what's going on? Or you're just like, or like, what are you doing? Like, what's your justification for just like walking up and shaking everyone's hand?
Maybe I think that there's a receiving line already. I don't know, like the nobles or like a merchant class.
There is, yeah. Well, so like Lord Gaul stands at the front and basically says hi to everybody. And if they don't have a mask, he gets a mask for them. He has a bunch of masks in a basket, right? And then maybe that's probably where it'll take me a minute. Shep, that's where Shep is standing too. So yeah.
So I think I'm trying to insinuate myself into that line. Like I don't have any reason to be there, but like I'm sandwiched between like maybe some other couples that are there, just like, oh, we're the Hottentots from Mount Hottentot, and I'm just sort of like, because I'm also short, and so I'm unassuming and just sort of fit.
Yeah, no, I like it. It's good. And your goal is to like basically you want to basically shake as many people's hands as possible, so you can try to like quickly read them psionically to find out if they have any ill intentions, right?
Right.
Idea. Yeah, it's good.
And it's also because not everybody's hands might be bare. Like it might be like sleeves or shoulders, so there's a lot of like awkward like, hey, how's it going? Like
right,
go in for a hug.
Do you tell a story like who you are to people?
I think I'm just making something up. I think I'm like spinning a story as I go. Like, oh, I know Caspian from way back. We ran a grift together, and
yeah, it's good. I like it. Why don't we just do Discern Realities, just roll plus wisdom, and I have a roll for your party room. It's I put the link is up there, or you can just roll dice.
That is a 4.
All right. Well, great. Hold that thought. We'll come back to it. Gunter, you are. I think people are filing in. And I think there are like rows of tables and things with like drinks and stuff laid out, and you're there, kind of getting into position, keeping an eye on things. First of all, let's talk about these questions. What do you see that tells you like just how decadent this party is, like just how much money Lord Caspian is spending?
I was thinking of decadence in another matter, another way, fine. because what I was thinking is that Gunter is not the weirdest thing in this party.
Okay, so what do you have in mind?
Like more like people are ignoring Gunter because the decadence is more like things are because there's like worse things in the party. I'm not entirely sure what, but like it maybe the party has gotten out of hand like already.
Oh, I see. Well, let's think about it. We'll think about it for a little bit.
Yeah.
What do you see that's evidence that Lord Caspian is so short?
All the bookshelves are like either Gunter's size or shorter.
Okay. Oh, is Gunter also very small?
No, Gunter is like it is medium height, but it's like all the bookshelves are at least
as tall as him, right?
As tall as him, or
when they could be much bigger. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I like it
because he's rich. I mean, Caspian is rich, so they could be much bigger.
All right. Well, I want to know what this horrible thing is that is with this horrible, but also presumably not out of place at a fancy party, right? So think about that. Corwin, you've made your way in, having shaken Lord Caspian's hand. Are you wearing a mask right now?
Yeah, if it was a masquerade ball, I'd come with a mask. I think like silver roses and sort of the thorns around them are pressing into his skin, and there's like little gem red drops of blood hanging off of it.
Ooh, nice. Good. Any significance to that, or you just thought it looked cool?
I think he's strangely drawn to roses as a symbol.
Okay, nice, cool. I love it. So you are milling around, you're doing your thing. Let's just paint the scene. I mean, how decadent is this party?
So I think the entire place is festooned with flowers, like garlands and bouquets, and thousands of displays, but none of them are actually real flowers. They're all like crystal and gem and precious metal replicas. So it's just like wealth of nations sort of spread out for casual decoration.
Nice. I love it. That's fantastic. Good. Very nice.
And as far as the him being short, I think all of the like tables and sort of permanent fixtures, like if there's a desk or something, or interesting spots along the wall, there's this sort of constant runner that's about foot and a half tall that sticks out from around the table, so he can stand on it sort of unobtrusively and just be like in the middling short range rather than tiny. But it's just around any permanent furniture, there's this extra little like step around it.
Nice, that's good. Yeah, I like that. And so, Nico, you're in the line, right? Are you there to get a mask, or do you have a mask?
I thought I'm already in at the beverage table, but we can say that I'm just waiting to get in.
Oh, okay.
I think I have my own mask, like something mechanical, maybe like a mask that has like a moving eye brushes or like a moving mouth, and I can have like make it like a move. So I definitely come with my own mask.
Okay, nice. I like that. Good. You can be inside. That's fine. You can have already moved your way in. What do you see that lets you know how decadent this party is?
Yeah, I had a bad connection for a moment when Maria was explaining. Can you like repeat, please, Maria? What did you say so that I don't say something completely different?
Well, I also figure out what it is. Kind of.
Maria hasn't done her decadent thing yet, so but she did say that the bookshelves are all like unusually short for bookshelves.
Yeah. The decadence is mainly that Gunter notices first that the fact that he's covered in blood isn't a huge deal to the nobles, and then he notices that they're serving some sort of blood wine and pus cakes.
I'm not in love with pus cakes. I like the idea of blood wine.
Yeah.
Pus cakes might be a bit over the top in terms of like weirdness and gore.
Yeah. So blood wine should work.
Yeah. I like that. So what is it about blood wine? Like, is this a particular decadence or a particular thing of the rich? Like, is there something about the blood in question? Does it taste more like wine or more like blood? I want to know more about this.
The blood wine is from a particular type of creature that is only found in Eagle's Reach or the surrounding areas, and only in the wild. And it tastes very sweet, very much like candy.
But it otherwise has the consistency of blood. Is that the idea?
Yes.
Interesting.
It is literally the creature's blood, but it's very sweet.
And it's a creature only found in and around Eagle's Reach. Gosh, I feel like we have to define that because it seems important. Is it a sentient creature or an animal?
It's a... I want to say it's like sentient, but considered a monster.
Okay, I like that as well. And is it commonly found, or is it just a sort of like, or is it like a super rare thing? Like, is its rarity part of the attraction?
Yeah, I think the rarity is part of the attraction.
Nice, good. Okay. Anybody have any thoughts on what this rare creature outside of Eagle's Reach might be?
Maybe something bird-related, flying.
Yeah, that makes sense. Maybe it is the eagle. Maybe it's like a big giant eagle, possibly.
A rock.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or like the talking eagles from like Lord of the Rings.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if maybe they talk, but I think maybe they do. Who knows? But like, I like the idea of like it's called Eagle's Reach because like there actually is high up in the peaks like these like big majestic eagles, right? They probably have wingspans. They have wingspans like like their claws are big enough to basically like pick up a small person, right? And they're so big and they're so incredible, but like these decadent nobles, like they like capture them and kill them and drink their blood. Do we suppose there's some sort of like ritualistic thing here? Like, do they feel like is drinking the blood supposed to impart some kind of wisdom or knowledge or power, or is it just like just drinking it because they can, like rich people in the 80s eating Komodo dragons? Is that kind of thing, or
a bit of both? I'm imagining it like they think there's some sort of weird mystical thing, but it's really just like them drinking it. I think it's like more like in terms of they say that to justify it, but there's really no value to it other than that.
I like it. And so I'm imagining the situation where we've said that Eagle's Reach has like a really like wealthy merchant class, right? A powerful merchant class. And so maybe the idea here is that like maybe it's all about like achieving like lofty ambitions, achieving like the heights of financial and social power, right? And maybe like the thinking is like if you drink the blood, it's a sort of like symbolic gesture to the gods, right? That and allows you to sort of attain this greatness. I like that. That's fantastic. And so very, very possibly you could be the person who just slaughtered the eagle out back.
Yeah, so that's why it's like no big deal that I have a lot of blood on me.
I think that's fantastic. Let's switch back over to Nico. Well, so Nico, what do you see in the ballroom that's so decadent?
Yeah, are we going with decadence just being flush with money, or are we going with decadence as a fall of social values? Because I found the definition
I'm open to either or both.
Yeah, so I think what Nico really says is that usually all kind of relationships are like common here, but in dancing, when you dance, it's usually like the men lead the ladies, and over here we see like the women dancing with women, men dancing with men, and in dance it's like a social faux pas, I think, because men are supposed to lead women in dance because then they can make like a circles of women's circle, men's circle, and here is like different.
Can we expand this notion out to be even more? Can we expand it out to say that like maybe as a general matter in Eagle's Reach, like same-sex relationships are taboo a little bit, like they have a sort of like exoticism or taboo to them, right? And certainly the peasant class wouldn't get involved in that kind of thing, right? But here at this party, not only is the dancing like sort of pushing back against this taboo, but I like the idea of there's also like just orgies like that take place where people experiment with these things, right? Is that cool? Like we expand it out to be this like there's a certain level of like tee-hee debauchery going on, right? Like in Caspian's party. I'm into that as
perfectly fine.
As an idea. Good.
And I think like Nico, that Nico is like very much surprised because he lived in this like traditional part, and so this part of decadence just like, oh my god, he has this piece of cake. What they are doing,
right? Well, and also I imagine your character spends a lot of time in their shop or whatever, right? Yeah, like, and they probably don't get out much as a general matter with like with the hoity-toities, right? Fantastic. Aupri, I haven't forgot about your miss. We're coming back to it. Shep.
Yeah.
I think this is near the beginning of the party, right before Caspian is I'd like to have the scene where you actually tell him like what's going on. Can we have that scene?
Sure.
So, and I'm going to mute everybody who's not in the scene, if that's okay. So, Lord Caspian Gall is, you know, like I said, he's a little over 4 feet tall. He has a sharp little gray goatee. He normally wears like a sort of like, you know, sort of like puffy, jaunty cap with a feather, sort of velvet doubloon, right? And where did you tell him this? Like, did you find him in his office before the party, or did you just pull him aside right at the beginning of the party?
No, I found him. I think I found him in advance of like this moment.
Good.
So yeah, like if he was in his office, I would.
Yeah, you can like call on him and like and have an audience with him, right? And I think as you're going through the house before the party, or maybe you're seeing the preparations for the party or whatever, what do you see first of all that indicates what kind of decadent shebang this is going to be, and also what do you see that's evidence of how short he is?
So it's probably easier to see it as the party's happening, but I also see the preparations of this. They have a way of making like a low-hanging fog, you know, like what we would do with dry ice or something like that. They have a way of doing that. So everywhere there's like 2 feet of fog, and it's to obscure the fact that Caspian will wear platform stilted shoes as he moves about inside his own party.
Nice, I like it. So so there's like a low-hanging fog on the floor, expressly to hide his platform shoes. I'm really into that. That answers both questions really beautifully. Fabulous. So I think you find him in his office there, and his office is interestingly, his office is actually like very ostentatious and big. Like I think the desk is really big. I think there is a statue of him that looms over everything that is also quite large, but proportioned like a larger man too, you know? I think there are huge oil paintings that show Caspian, sort of like Caspian is inserted into sort of like historical and mythological scenes, you know, standing up against the gods, conquering beasts, you know, slaying beasts, that kind of thing. You know, it's very, very like overcompensating for something, right? Like it's that kind of situation. And his desk is on like a dais. And so when you're sitting in front of him or you're standing in front of him, like he looms over you, right? It's that kind of situation, even though he himself looks quite tiny at the desk. So it's like this big, massive desk and him just kind of like there, you know, and he kind of leans forward and he's like, so I'm told that you have some urgent business with me before my party.
So I need to know something about the Shadow Court. Are they a known entity?
Yes, in the city they will be. They're known by reputation, right? Yeah, for sure.
Okay. All right. Then, yeah. Caspian, you have flourished since I last was in this city.
Yes, I am very, very good at my job, and I have managed to acquire many, many wonderful and fabulous things. What is the nature of your neck deep in preparations?
Well, we of the Shadow Court have it on good report that there will be some mischief of the mortal variety that may happen here at your abode. And I wish to ensure that your lordship is at the forefront of protection under the Shadow Court.
I hope you don't take this the wrong way, but you seem a little... I don't want to be rude, but you seem to have quite a few springs under your belt.
And I think like I'm like leaning on a walking stick right now, but it is in fact a spear. And I just like hit a button and the spearhead just like comes out. And I'm like, one doesn't get to have many springs under their belt without being good at their job.
Are you going to be monitoring this situation yourself?
I will stand at your right hand to make sure that all goes smoothly and the mischief makers decide not to engage in any mischief.
Well, I don't want you to take this the wrong way, but I intend to get lucky at this party. You know what I mean by lucky?
I think I know what you mean by lucky. And I think like Maud just like barks. She's like, fuck.
I think he just is like, what is that? Right? Like, I think he's like, I don't think he even thought this was a creature on your shoulders, right? He's just like, whoa, like he's surprised. He says, yeah, this is very, very untoward. I fear that if you stand near me, standing guard of me all night, it's going to be, you're going to be a bit of an impediment to my personal mojo, for lack of a better word.
Then perhaps a compromise. I will stand with you in the greeting area, and then once the party is underway, I will watch from a distance.
I don't think I'm going to push this to parlay, but I like the scene. He'll agree to that, and you will be able to stand in that area. You have to have a mask, though. What mask did you choose?
Oh, I get to pick one out?
Yeah, you can pick one out. Yeah, unless you wanted to question you and find the perfect mask for you, but otherwise,
I think I would just stand there without a mask until he decided I needed.
Until he decides you need a mask. Okay, good. All right, fantastic. We'll get to that in a minute.
All right.
So, good. So, Aupri, you have a miss on the table, and I think you are like, you're doing this thing, you're touching, you're like, give me the scene. Like, if someone is like covered up to their wrist or they're covered up to their fingertips, like, how do you make skin to skin contact with them? Like, what kinds of things are you doing here?
I think I'm just trying different kinds of handshakes. There's, I think I'm just, or maybe it's even more subtle than that. Maybe she has long fingers and she just sort of like, she's just trying to touch the tip of her fingers to wherever the glove is no longer, where the glove ends, or if it's further up, then there's an embrace. So good to see you.
Right. Yeah. That's good. And I think as you're doing this, I think you actually, I'd like to say what's going to happen here is you reach a person in the line who is wearing a really beautiful billowy sort of gown that is decorated all over with like coral and seashells and festooned with pearls, right? And they have a mask in a similar sort of situation. It's like sea creatures, like crabs and squids, sort of shapes, like kind of covering their face, right? And it's a woman, and she approaches, and basically, I think like for a minute, you two you're shaking hands, right? And you're kind of going through your, you're trying to just get like quick impressions, right? And she actually like speaks back to you in your mind. She says, "Huh, a very clever trick. I sense you here. You know that, right?"
Of course. What do you take me for? This isn't my first masquerade party.
And I think like on screen, this just looks like the two of you kind of like just having an awkward silence, right? While other people sort of like fill in and you're bustling around you. And but this conversation continues. She says, "So who do you work for? Why are you here?"
I think Aupri is getting, I think she feels confident in the conversation, but I think she's getting nervous because she doesn't belong in this line, and the line is now stopping as this conversation is taking place. And she says, I work for the safety of Eagle's Reach.
Safety of Eagle's Reach. Internal security?
You could say that.
Wow. The budget must be really something this year if they can afford someone with your talents.
It's pro bono work.
So, what sort of danger are we on the lookout for? Maybe I can help you.
Maybe you can. Why are you here?
I'm here to get into a bit of danger.
Oh, do tell.
And she says, I think you're going to see soon enough. She's blocked off from you. She's really good at hiding her intentions. Right, really good. She's not someone to be trifled with just from that fact alone. Right. But what do you do? And she's breaking contact, and she's going to continue on.
I let her go.
Okay, sounds good. And you can eventually make your way into the party as well. Give me the decadent detail and the short detail.
So playing off of David's idea of this sort of fog on the ground, I think that the sign of decadence is there's like in the main hall, there's like this massive jungle, right? Like we described Eagle's Reach as a sort of Colorado-y cold environment. And so this sign of decadence is that they're somehow able to support like this jungle themed thing,
Right, yeah.
with like a massive like banana tree in the center. And maybe it's like a mist that's covering the ground. Like it's very humid in there. Sorry. And what else? And the sign of shortness is the, you know how stairs have a certain level? If they're a little bit too high, then you trip over them. If they're a little too low, then you sort of like stumble. I think that his stairs are a little bit lower. So everybody that walks up make a spiral staircase, just sort of like trips a little bit.
They're not like a normal sort of stair height. That's good. Yeah. So maybe, and I think like the main ballroom actually has like, I'm imagining like two, like it's flanked by like two curving, sets of stairs that go up to like rooms on the upper floors, right? And the ballroom is kind of like basically right as you enter this little foyer, and then it kind of opens up into this ballroom. And I think we may occasionally see people going up to stand on the balcony, right, just to look down, people going up there, and occasionally you see people stumble and trip, right? The sort of like overall beautiful and elegance of the situation is ruined slightly by people like stumbling on the stairs, right? Fantastic. Well, I think I just want to go around the table then and just figure out like what each of your moves are here, and mark it in XP, Aupri, if you didn't earlier. Shep, you're there. You're receiving people. You're taking a look at things. Do you want to do a DR? I assume you're watching the group, watching the crowd.
Yeah, and Maud slips from my shoulders and ducks beneath this 2 feet fog and goes out scouting for me.
Oh, nice, good. Yeah, I love it. All right, well, go ahead and roll DR.
Cool. And I'll add Maud's something. Is it?
It's a wisdom, which is yours is 0, I think.
Right. I'm trying to figure out when my animal companion adds something to the roll too.
I think it's this.
Cunning.
Cunning.
Cunning. Cool. So +2. So 8.
Do you know the question you want to ask now, or do you want to come back to?
I guess what or who should I be on the lookout for?
Members of the Phantom Court always have a tattoo. It's not prominently on their body, but you can identify this tattoo because it looks like a sort of so the Phantom Court, weirdly, interestingly, is always associated with beasts, right? And so they have a sort of like a beast motif that they operate in, right? And in particular, like beasts of the night, right? Or like or beasts that operate by moonlight, that kind of thing, right? And there's a whole history behind that, but we're not going to get into it. But basically, the idea here is they always have a tattoo that looks like a sort of, it's a perversion of the dominant holy symbol in the setting is like a stylized sun and moon, right? Representing a sort of like duality god. Theirs is more moon. It's more moon, and it has like a little jagged bolt of lightning that cuts across it. Okay. That's what you need to be on the lookout for. Like if you see someone with such a tattoo somewhere on their body, and if you can somehow manage that, that's how you'll know. And I think as you're kind of like checking things out and looking at people, you're coming up empty so far, right? Like no one has it displayed prominently, right? And they wouldn't. But you might also be on the lookout for like people who are particularly covered up as well, right? Maybe they're trying. The tattoo is often around the neck. Or it's like on the sort of soft part of your wrist, right? Going over to
I have a
Corwin.
question. Is it possible?
Sure.
Is it the place to try to trigger each other flags, or you want to just get more?
You can try to trigger flag whenever you want. That's on you guys. So just tell me if you want to frame the scene for it.
I would like to ask Corwin to do some acrobatic tricks if he is up to it.
Oh yeah, that sounds good. So maybe you guys are aware of each other, right? So maybe you just like meet up in the ballroom here.
Yeah. So maybe I approach Corwin as he finishes the dance, because he described himself that he's dancing with some lady, and Nico has this like oh my god, I forgot the word, sash, a very long sash, and he says, "Hey Corwin, how about I found this sash lying on the floor in the corner? How about we put it just under the ceiling, and you can walk on this, make some tricks." And people will like observe, and it will be easier for us to notice if someone is like that doesn't then properly merge with the crowd.
Merge with the crowd that are all staring at me hanging from the ceiling.
Yeah, you can walk on the line, use the knives, throw them around. You know how to attract attention to yourself.
All right. Do you have something in particular that you're trying to hide? Do you want me to time it for something, or?
I'm not hiding anything, but if people will be watching,
obviously,
then it will be easier for me to observe who we are after, because maybe this person will try to somehow hide in the crowd, and if the crowd is watching you, then I have to move between the different crowds. It will be easier for me to find someone. Or at least I hope to.
Create a distraction.
All right. Sure.
I love it. Just if you're an impromptu bit of aerial acrobatics, I think that's a fantastic idea personally. Do you want to give us some fiction here, Corwin, what this might look like?
Yeah, so I think he makes his way up to an upper level, sort of at a balcony, and he'll have gathered some like rope from somewhere. Let's say like long curtain ties or something that he can gather up, and he'll sort of secure it to himself and the banister surreptitiously while people aren't looking, and set it up as I think like. He stumbles and like his glass goes stumbling over the edge, and he does sort of a drunken, oh no, I've fallen over the balcony, but turns it into like a twirling catch on the rope as he's going down for sort of hopefully a cry and a gasp from the audience.
Maybe.
And
roll Defy Danger Dexterity. I'm into it. Roll Defy Danger. Let's see how it goes.
7, 8, 9.
9. Very good. That's all going to work fine. I think so the idea is like you're pretending to fall over the balcony, and then you just like kind of roll down this like long silk streamer and are like caught by it, and then you do what exactly?
And then I have that scarf that Nico had given me, and I think I sort of use it whip-like to try and whip it down and grab up some of these like crystalline flowers and have them go flying up in the air and land towards people up on the balcony watching as sort of like, ooh, pretty things. I could definitely see like razor sharp crystals flying through the air not being the best idea if you don't roll great.
Yeah. I'm into it. So, but just at the outset, you're just kind of like hanging, right? Or you're hanging, or okay, right? And you're hanging by, what were you hanging by again?
I had found like some curtain ropes or some
Okay.
sort of long thing that I could tie off.
Like
like a dramatic spin and through the air as I land at the bottom.
I think the crystal flower thing is not going to get off, but I do think you are. You are there. I think the second story is probably pretty high, right? Like because he's got to have space to like show all of his grand portraits and things, right? That stretch up high to the ceiling. And so you're suspended like a good maybe a good like 15, 20 feet in the air, right? And you're dangling there, and I think you're just kind of I think it's not as like elegant or beautiful as you would like. And everyone is kind of like, there's a moment of like, but then there's like a moment of like, oh, like he's safe or whatever. You don't have a lot of time to act here, Nico. Like you don't have a whole lot of time, but people are kind of like gathering around, and then like I don't know, like Corwin, are you doing some kind of like comedy or something to get people's attention? Since the flower thing isn't going to work, you're just kind of hanging upside down.
I'll do a couple of like flipping from my hands to my feet back and forth, but I don't have a ton of acrobatic circus tricks to pull out in front of these people, so I think it gets repetitive pretty quick.
No, I love it. Nico, go ahead and I assume if you're watching the crowd, as you mentioned earlier, you can just give me a discern realities. So.
Yeah, Nico definitely thinks that he is the wise because now because all the crowd is watching Corwin, and he just looking around like who is trying to hide, who is not talking, who's not watching. It will be minus. It can go horribly wrong. It's an 8. Wow.
All right, one question.
Yeah. I think what here is not what it appears to be, or maybe who here is not what he appears to be, depending how you want to phrase it. So,
no, that's good. Nico, you will see that woman that I described earlier, the one who has a sort of like deep ocean motif going on in her clothing and her mask. You will see her actually. So I think like. There's like a sort of like back into this sort of left as you enter the ballroom. That's the hallway where like all the servants and things are coming out, like with food and drink and things like that, right? And you'll actually see her like chatting with someone, and they're telling her something, and then they point around the corner as if to go to the servants' hall, and she does. And in fact, Aupri, you will also, I assume you're keeping your eye on her too. You'll see her go off to the side as well. But Nico, I think you what you notice in particular is that like she's not there enjoying the party. She's chatting up a servant, and then she's heading to the servants like area, right? Pretty unusual behavior. She's not the kind of person she's not dressed like the kind of person who'd be caught dead, commiserating with the servants, right? So, and there's. And assuming that you guys have cased the place a little bit beforehand, there's nothing back there of interest apart from just like the scullery, right? So that's what you see, and I'll give you a follow up on that in a minute. And maybe even you can, Aupri, you might even like maybe you confer with Nico, and you guys have kind of shared this information as a person to kind of keep an eye on. Do you share like that like this is a person not to be trifled with, that you had a conversation telepathically with them?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. So you guys have that on the table. That's great. And Gunter, I think it might be helpful for you to actually be back in that area as well, right? Since you're a servant.
Yeah, I was thinking that. And maybe I did not hear the conversation that she's not to be trifled with, or
right.
did I?
Yeah. You don't know that part. Yeah.
I don't know that part. So yeah. I see this woman just suspiciously, I guess, because she looks decadent and rich and all that stuff, but she's in the servants' room.
Yeah.
May I help you?
We'll get to that in a minute. I'll cut back to it. But in the meantime, just so you know, Corwin, the rope you're dangling by, you see the little like the threads or whatever. You see them like quickly spinning and unspooling, ready to drop you down into the ground. What do you do?
Well, I mean, it wouldn't do to just like sheepishly climb back up the rope anyways. I've gone this far, I might as well try and pull it off. So I give like 1 or 2 swings back and forth, try and eye the beta socialite that I'd been dancing with, and try and do a like flip through the air and land right next to is him or her.
Oh, up to you. Whatever you want. Whatever you're interested in. It's fine.
Go with him.
Okay. We'll say it's we'll define them now. We'll say he's a young like a young moneyed lord. Like he came into all of his money, right? Never done a day of work in his life. The equivalent of a trust fund baby here, right? We'll name him Lord, Merchant Lord, but he just goes Lord, like the merchant part. That's not like it's too prosaic for him, right? We'll name him Lord Ashton. Lord Ashton, he is there with like I think he's there with like it's almost like an entourage situation. Like he's there with like his various hangers on and people who just like compliment him and tell him how smart he is all the time, right?
Okay.
So you're gonna try to just land stylishly to impress Lord Ashton? Yeah,
do like obviously a gymnastic flip through the air and a perfect landing where nothing will go wrong at all.
I love it. Roll plus, defy danger decks. Yeah, the danger, of course, being that you like just land hard and hurt yourself, right?
Mm-hmm. 9, 10, 11.
Nice. You have the fiction. What does it look like?
So yeah, I think it's like one swing back and forward, and then on the second one, as I'm coming forward, that's when the rope sort of separates and unties. But I just reach the arc of my swing and do like a single flip, and I'm holding that end of the rope with me as I land right there in front of him, and sort of hold it up as a trophy or a souvenir to him to sort of take. There are a couple of like golf claps around me, and I appreciatively. Yes, thank you.
Nice. I'm going to cut back. I might give you a scene with Lord Ashton. We'll cut back to it though, and we're going to get to you as well, Gunter. But in the meantime, so the party is basically in full swing. Shep, everybody's kind of filing in. Lord Gaul turns to you and says, "Well, did you see anyone who might be up to no good?"
It's terribly difficult to notice. Looking for a particular tattoo, but it could be just about anywhere on their body. And all these people are, well, heavily clothed.
Looking for a particular tattoo on someone's body. That sounds equal parts frightening and exciting. There's going to be a bit of a chance encounter. And by chance encounter, you know what I mean, right?
And I think that's when Maud gets back. And, like, you just hear her bark from the floor again. She's like, fuck. Then just, like, climbs back up over my shoulder.
Do you know what I mean by chance encounter? Do I have to spell it out for you?
Even my dog knows what you're talking about.
Right. Well, perhaps we can elevate this encounter. We can expand the scope to include many people, and perhaps we will have an opportunity to look at these people, look at all various parts of their bodies, and maybe then you can suss out who you're looking for.
Well, that is a good opportunity to notice that, but I must advise my lordship that being in such close proximity to writhing bodies is asking for mischief, and not the kind of mischief that you want.
No, I do intend to get up to some. That is true. Very, very true. Hey, maybe you could help me with something.
What's that?
There is a certain young lord in attendance at my party who I have been trying to have a chance encounter with for some time now. But he's not open to my solicitations as of yet. perhaps you can help me.
I'm here looking for a dangerous criminal. You want me to divert my attention to getting your bed filled instead.
Well, I just thought that, well, you have a sort of a worldliness to you, a sort of lived wisdom, if you will. I think that perhaps someone with your many years of experience would be able to reach someone, a young person like that, and, advise them.
As long as it's not going to take too long, I'm sure that I can get him there.
Oh, splendid. Perfectly splendid. I shall point him out to you directly, presently. And he takes your arm and scuffles you into the party.
I guess I'll just grab some random mask.
Oh, did you never put a mask on?
No, I haven't put a mask on yet.
Yeah, you can grab. Yeah, that's fine. We can assume you had a mask on before. What did you grab?
I think it's like just a very nondescript mask. Like,
Sure.
It's just like the Oron and Lunon mask. Like,
I like it. Good. Yeah, that's kind of a common sort of thing. I like it. Gunter, you're in the back. And this woman comes in. She's dressed real like she does not belong back here, right? Like you see her coming with her gown, like, decorated with seashells and pearls, and her mask with crabs and squids, kind of like, shapes of crabs and squids, like all around it. Her hair done up and held with a beautiful, pin. And yeah, what do you do? What do you say? You see her. You run right into her.
Excuse me, miss. What brings you here? What do you need?
Oh, I was hoping, I was really hoping to get back to the kitchens. I just, this is a little embarrassing. I hope you don't mind me sharing this with you, and I certainly hope you'll keep this just between you and me. But I am looking for someone, a young man, who works in the kitchens here in Lord Gall's manse.
What is that man?
He's a young man, handsome young man. His name is Stenton. And, well, I was hoping to have a bit of a secret rendezvous with him. Maybe you could help me find him.
Yes, maybe I can. And and it's like, and yeah, I'll try to look for him and keep an eye on her at the same time.
Yeah. So there's a lot of like activity back there. There's lots of there's kitchens, there's a larder, there's like all kinds, there's like the wine cellar that people are coming up from. There's a lot of activity, right? She says, now I have to confess, and I hope you don't think that I'm being too open or forward with you. This is as you guys are making your way through. She says, but I don't actually know what this young man looks like. I've only heard legendary tales. I've only heard stories about his endowment.
About a kitchen worker?
Yes, he's said to be very, very talented and very, very blessed.
I have never heard of no such tale.
Right. Well, it's maybe you could just ask around. Stenton is his name. I'll go over here and you go over there. She kind of points in different directions.
So yeah, I'll start asking around for legendary tales of of like blessed heroes and stuff, and keep an eye on her.
Indeed. So you're mostly keeping an eye on her, though. Is that
Yeah,
what's
I'm mostly keeping an eye on her,
I
but
thought so.
my questions are clearly not in that regard.
Right. Yeah, you're asking like questions about like literal legends and tales.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Okay, good.
Yeah.
You can roll DR though if you're keeping an eye on her.
My DR is kind of shit because I have a minus in wisdom. And that is a 4.
4, yeah. As you're kind of keeping an eye on her and all that stuff is going on, you're kind of looking around or whatever. You actually see her having a conversation with someone. It looks like she was just trying to lose you. Honestly, she doesn't really try to employ you to help her. You see her talking to like a sort of gruff-looking like scullery maid, an older woman, and the scullery maid like seems a little awkward and uncomfortable because the dressed lady is back there, right? But you hear her say, "Oh yeah, Stenton. I'm happy to take you to him, but for what reason?" And she says, "Oh, Stenton did some work for my family a few weeks ago, and I just wanted to thank him." And you see the scullery maid kind of like saying, "Okay," and they cut down a side hall where she's going to take her to go see Stenton.
All right,
What do you
I'll
do?
follow. I'll
You
follow.
Mark an XP. I need a quick bio break, so I'm going to let's take a couple minutes and come back. Okay. All right. I'm not completely done with my move there on that miss. We're going to come back to it, though. So I want to just orient everybody in time and space here. So, Nico, you know that there's something up with this woman who's gone back to the servants area. And Aupri, you also know that she's a very dangerous, or at the very least, highly skilled individual. I assume you guys have shared that information. You know that. Shep, you might be stuck with Lord Gaul for a minute. I don't know. We'll see. But Lord Gaul is basically heading toward the same young Lord Ashton that Corwin is currently charming the pants off of, right? And so I just want to find out like what everyone is going to be doing. Shep, I'm going to say that I want to have a scene with you and Lord Gaul here in a minute. But importantly, I want to find out like what Corwin, Nico, and Aupri do with this information they have. Like, Nico, where do you go? What do you do?
I think, so Aupri, do you just pass this information like mentally, or do we actually have a conversation?
No, just have a conversation.
Yeah, so I suppose, okay, so I will follow her and see what she's up to. Maybe this is the person we're looking for.
I think that's smart. She knows me.
Yeah, and Nico tries conspiratorially to just like get into this servant's room as well. Just like stands there. Oh, the door's open and this
right, yeah, you just gotta go to the back. Yeah, I like that. I'm just gonna let you go there. That's fine. I don't need a roll or anything. But you still have your +1 forward though, from DR whenever you need it in a way that makes sense. Aupri, what will you be doing?
I think I want to hit. Oh, it's not you. Sorry. I think I was going to try to enlist Shep into some crazy plan. I think I want. I think when this masked crusader comes, we don't know her name or their name yet, do we?
You do not. No.
I think I want to get Maud involved in some type of like some type of crazy caper that puts this person on edge and gives me a chance to try to read her mind again. And I'm specifically targeting who the target is. I want to know who her target is. And I have the Mind Flayer's Veil still, and I'm hoping to use that to sort of boost my psionic abilities.
Yeah, I like that. In the short term, though, you're just going to like kind of meet back up with Shep, though, and maybe get this going. Okay, good.
Yeah.
And Corwin, what about you? Are you still there trying to work on Lord Ashton?
Yeah, I'm hoping that this will serve as enough of an impression to get him to open up a little, and I want to gossip with him about people at the party, like who here seems like they're acting weird or is dressed differently than they normally would be, or who's been getting into like trouble or fights or any sort of dirt about people going at each other here.
Yeah, no, I love it. That's fantastic. I like that a lot. So Lord Ashton he's very handsome. He's tall. He's got like a mane of light brown hair, beautiful, big, beautiful eyes, chiseled, he does sports and he keeps himself physically fit. And he's wearing, I think he's wearing like his mask is actually just like a really, really simple eye mask because like, why obscure that face? Right? and his doublet and stuff are all very close fitting and nicely cut, right? And he says, that was a very, very impressive trick.
What can I say? I'm a dexterous fellow.
Well, you have provided, much more amusement than I anticipated when I agreed to come to this party. I suppose it's not going to be a complete waste, after all.
If you're looking for some more amusement, we could head back to the dance floor. I've recently found that I have a great love for it.
Indeed, indeed. So difficult to dance, though, with this strange fog on the ground. Hard to see where your feet should be going, isn't it? But I have a feeling. But you're dexterous, so it should be okay.
Oh, you shouldn't worry. If you stumble at all, I'll be here to catch you.
Indeed. And he kind of like, give me a. I think we'll just do a quick on the fly custom move. Give me a charisma roll. Basically, this is kind of to adjudicate like how charmed he is by you.
All right. It's a 12.
Nice, really charmed. He says, well, how can I say no to that? And he extends his hand, and you guys can like begin your dance, like because I think like the crowd begins playing up like sort of a waltz, right? You guys can get right to it. Shep, Lord Caspian, he sees this and he says, "Oh," he's like, "Oh, look, there he is, and he's already got a dance partner. Oh, this is not how I thought the evening was going to go. This is always the way it goes. Every time I try to make contact with him, he's always got someone else who steals his attention and his affections. You've got to help me, Shep. You've got to help me."
How are you standing so tall?
But what do you mean? This is my normal height.
I look at Maud, and Maud looks at me, and he'll be tired of dancing soon.
And he's like really antsy. He's really focused on this young Lord Ashton. He's really, really antsy about it. And I think that's when Aupri comes up. So Aupri can join them.
Yeah, and I'm just like, Lord Caspian, trust me. The more, the merrier. I thought that was your idea. And besides, you're all the same height lying down.
He says, "True, very, very true. I know what you're saying. It's just that I do so want him for myself. I can't abide the thought of showing him with anyone. You know what that's like, right? To covet something so terribly that you lose sight of yourself."
Sure. And then I turn to Aupri.
Aupri, you can join them.
I think Aupri is she's socializing. Like she's trying to make herself into something of a socialite in this party, and so it's a very like effusive. "Oh, Caspian. Oh, you're delightful. Oh, so good to see you." And I think he's maybe less intimidated since maybe we're kind of the same height.
Yeah, good. Yeah, I think he sees you and he says, "Oh, yes. You'll have to remind me your name, madam."
My name is Aupri.
Indeed.
Of
indeed. Are you wearing a mask, Aupri?
Yeah.
What's your mask?
I'm gonna go dog.
Dog. Okay. Indeed. He says, "Well, Aupri, yes, I think we met at Lady Casterfield's party," and he kind of like rattles off a date, right? Yeah, you think he's just playing it off, right? Like he doesn't quite remember who you are.
Of course.
Yeah. This is splendid. Are you having a wonderful time?
I'm having a delightful time. Thank you so much. This is the ball of the year. They're going to be talking about this one for months here.
Oh, I hope you're right. And he's very distracted. Like he's not really focused. He knows that like you're there. He knows you, Shep, are there, like in service of Shadow Court. He knows there's supposed to be an assassination going on. He's really, really focused on Lord Ashton, and he's getting really, really angry and really, really frustrated as like Corwin and Lord Ashton continue their dance. Like he's kind of not having it. Shep, what do you do? Anything? Or you just let this play out?
I mean, I actually don't care that much about what Lord Caspian does or thinks or anything like that. If it's going to jeopardize our mission, like I might try and mollify him or do something, but it doesn't seem like that's what's going on here. It just seems like he's being himself.
He you guys just, maybe you're looking around for the rest of your companions. Who knows what's going on? This dance is going on. I'm gonna get to the dance in a minute, but at a certain point, Lord Caspian, you will both notice like he starts to shed a little tear. Like a little tear begins rolling down his cheek. He says, "Oh, do you know what it's like to be so fabulously rich and still you can't find love?"
Oh dear God, Caspian, stop pitying yourself and go cut in.
There's some things that money can't buy.
Mansion. It's your mansion. Go cut in and dance with the young man if that's what you want.
Can I? So maybe Aupri like takes Caspian, starts dancing with him, and we're gonna do one of those one of those couple moves where we switch couples with Corwin and Ashton, and I'm gonna start dancing with Corwin.
Okay, nice. I like it. That's good. Yeah, that's a good move. Let's cut back over to Gunter and Nico. So Gunter, I'm still kind of making my move here a little bit from last time. So you follow this woman to go find this kitchen person, Stenton, right? And basically she cuts left, she cuts right. The scullery maid kind of like points her to a particular room. It looks like some kind of like dry storage room. And she goes there, and you can follow. And Nico, you can be on scene here in a minute, but you'll hear it first, Nico, I think, before you'll see it. But basically, you kind of like see her in this dry storage room. The old scullery maid goes away, walks past you, and you see this woman with covered in seashells and stuff. You see her with this young man. He's maybe 18, 19 years old, really young, dressed very simple spun clothing. I mean, he's clearly a servant or a peasant of some sort. Good looking, but mostly unremarkable. And she steps in and she says, "Is your name Stenton?" And he's got like a sack of flour in his arms, right? And he says, yeah, I'm Stenton. How can I help you, ma'am?" And she says, "Just stand right there." And as she says it, you notice a strange thing, Gunter. There in the dry storage, behind Stenton, like a portal or a door begins to open up behind him, like just hanging in space. And it looks like a sort of like a cutaway view of like the ocean. You see tall kelpy plants, you see fish floating around, and it looks like they could swim right out of the portal and fall onto the ground, right? But this ocean just kind of stays there. It kind of just hangs in space. You're just looking at this scene. Stenton hasn't seen it yet. And out of the murky darkness of this little oceanic portal that's opened up behind Stenton, a pair of like large, thick tentacles come out. They pierce this little portal, entering into the dry storage room, and they're wrapping around, clearly getting ready to grab Stenton. What do you do?
I will tackle Stenton so to get him out of the way. So
Okay.
Defending him.
Run up and tackle him. I like that.
Yeah.
It could be. I think it's a speed thing. So go ahead and give me a defy danger with dexterity.
Defy danger dex. That is also cool. That is a 5.
Indeed. You rush up. I think like as you're running up, the two tentacles, like one grabs his leg and wraps around his like thigh. The other one like wraps around his neck, and he lets out like a single cry, like a single like piercing scream as these tentacles grab him, right? Nico, you hear the scream. You can follow it. What do you do?
Am I like in the room or outside the room or whatever?
I mean, you can run it. You can run and you can kind of run and like kind of you can listen to where the scream came from and run toward it if you wish. Yeah, run toward it.
Yeah, I probably like run into the room. So are they? So he's being corrupted by the tentacles, but is he already pulled into the portal or not?
I think he's probably getting close to being pulled into the portal. It's a little unclear. It looks like he's actually probably like it's unclear if he's being pulled in. Yeah, I think he's being pulled in. So like I think we basically see as you run in and you see everything as I've described, except you see the tentacles pulling Stenton into the sort of like watery ocean realm, right? And so he's there, right? Just kind of like hanging there, like flailing around inside this like little pocket ocean dimension, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where these tentacles grabbed him. And also, Gunter, the woman, you ran in, you weren't able to grab it in time, so you're there standing here looking at this. You hear her say, "This is none of your business. I'm going to have to ask you to leave." What do you do? Gunter, when she says that, what do you do?
I will ignore her and try to use my sword to cut the tentacles.
Okay, well, so as we're going to say the tentacles are already you have to get into the portal. You're going to like swim into the portal to get to
Oh, never mind. Then I will try to grab Stenton and rake him free out of the tentacles.
Okay, so you're going to try to reach into the portal and like grab him and wrench him free. I like that.
Yeah.
That's good. Nico, you see this. You're running here with this all happening. You see Gunter trying to like grab, like try to pull this guy away from the tentacles, pull him back into this world.
Mm-hmm.
She turns and sees you, and she says, "This is going to be a little bit more complicated than I anticipated." And she takes basically, she's wearing like this bodice that is sewn with seashells and different things like that, right? And she pulls off like one of the little like pearl decorations. It's like a little glass bead, right? She pulls it off, and she's about to do something with it. I think she's getting ready to like slam it onto the ground. You don't know what's going on, but it's got to be some magic bullshit. What do you do? You can have
Nico,
your +1 forward here as well.
Nico pulls his freezing device, which is like a bunch of like a barrel with a coil mounted on a crossbow frame, and it's like attached with some like a cable to something which he has on his back, and we see it's like freezing cold, like the cold is when you have something super cold in the air, it like has this like a little bit fog around it, and Nico just like says to her, "Oh yes, it just got more complicated, madame," and he just like freezes her feet, and he says, "And you are not going anywhere, and don't you think about closing the portal before we get the boy back."
Okay, so I love it. Let's look at your moves here and see what might be triggering. So you've got your you're using your.
I'm using my gadget.
One of your gadgets. Okay, great.
It has elemental cold.
Okay.
Elemental ice.
You've already described it. You described it does. So I think this is probably field test move, right? When you use one of your gadgets to get out of a tight spot.
Yeah.
Percent. Yeah.
Yeah, +int.
Yeah. Let me just reroll this dice. For 7, barely a 7, but yeah.
Fantastic. It's going to work as expected, but choose 2.
I think using it drains my reserves, so I'm going to lower my charge.
Okay.
And to build some tension, I think it will not last long, especially that she's of magical origin, and it might not work so super long on magic users. But I think for the time being, she's like at least her feet are like frozen, and she cannot just like walk away.
Okay. All right. So she's stuck. Okay, I like that. That's great. She's stuck. She was going to out of character, she has this little like glass bead, and she was going to throw it down on the ground and smash it, which will presumably do something magical, right? Are you cool with her doing that as long as she can't otherwise run away?
Yeah.
Okay. She throws it down. It smashes, and there is appearing immediately, as soon as it smashes, a large walrus. A large walrus has just materialized right there in the middle of the dry goods storage. And it lets out like a sort of like roar and is going to be leaping toward you.
Excuse me, what? Walrus?
A walrus? Yeah, like a...
What is that?
It's like a... I'll find a picture of walrus.
Yeah, I have no idea what it is.
It's a sea creature, kind of like a big tusked sea
Mammal.
Yeah.
It's a sea mammal.
Tusks. Oh.
I think they weigh like 300 pounds or something.
There's a Wikipedia on walrus.
Walrus. Yeah, so
it just appears. We're going to come back to that scene in one moment. The rest of you, so I think like basically a lot of people like in the kitchen in the back area heard the commotion. They might be, kind of running over to see what's going on. Who knows? But out in the ballroom, you guys can't hear any of that because there's music playing and there's all kinds of like activity. You guys are just there. So we're trying to do a little switch up where you basically become the new dancing partner of Corwin, right? Aupri, and Lord Ashton is then dancing with Lord Gaul. Is that the idea?
Yeah, and I think as they come up, like I've just been on the verge of getting some juicy details from him and finding out some stuff, and I see this like troll of a man come dancing up and try and switch, and I like move us away, and I think it takes Aupri switching around to where I can see Aupri and sort of the eyebrow language of "God damn it, trade out so I can talk to you."
Right, that's good. Yeah. So I think like this is going on, and like Lord Ashton is now dancing with Lord Gaul, and he looks really, really over it. Like he's like looking at you, Corwin, like I want to get back over with you, right? And so we just imagine this scene with these like two tall people dancing with these two short people, and you're this is all kind of going on. So you and Aupri are now dancing. Do you guys want to have that scene or what?
Yeah, as far as flags go, I thought it might be an interesting, like, me trying to convince you to trust me that I can get information out of this guy and just get this troll off his back. Or alternatively, with, like, close contact, maybe you pick up something about my memories. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm thinking, I think... What do I think? I think I'm trying to... okay, so one of the things about Aupri is that she kind of lacks empathy. She's kind of a jerk. And so, like, she's going to probe you she might probe you for memories, but not in a way that, that you might appreciate.
I'm cool with that.
So I think at first she's just pulling you away from this dance, like you freaking idiot. Just let the dude get let Caspian just do his thing. Like this is what he needs. Okay, the more compliant he is, the better off we're going to be.
Look, I was on the verge of getting all the information about the social dynamics here and finding out who our target's going to be. And what I don't need right now is that troll dry humping the finest piece of information I've seen in a long time.
Okay, and what exactly have you learned from him thus far?
Well, I don't think a lot of that's suitable for public
Exactly.
viewing, but we were on the verge of finding out some really intimate details.
I think at this point, I think Caspian is probably, if you were to go back into, like, try to cut back in, that Caspian might get a little bit angry and it might get a little bit dangerous. And so maybe I'm like, okay, go ahead. And I sort of like push you back to the other couple.
So you're now trying to interrupt Lord Caspian and Lord Ashton, right?
Yeah.
So I think, like, Lord Ashton is like, he kind of like, I think he like, as an aside to you, he's like, "Oh God, I'm so glad you're back." But Lord Caspian is like, we're not quite done. We're not quite finished here. Let's just wait till the end of the song, shall we?
Yeah, I'm still sort of pissed off at this guy. I'm gonna try and cut in before the song's over.
Nice. You're gonna push Lord Caspian out of the way.
I'm gonna try and do it gracefully in a spin and just sort of like take Ashton out of his arms in a
Give me a
twirling
dexterity.
moment.
Yeah, give me a defy danger dexterity. And the danger, of course, here is like Lord Caspian might get like really irritated and like do something rash, right?
Jeez, I'm good at dancing. That's a 12.
Nice. Just give me the scene. What does it look like?
So I think I time it for when they're coming towards like the center of the dance floor, and there are a couple other couples there, and there's just this twirling sort of coattails and dresses passing each other in this as these sort of couples come together, and just as we twirl back out of it, like I'm suddenly dancing with Lord Ashton, and Caspian Gull's just sort of spinning by himself in the middle of the dance floor.
Oh. You guys are going to help him find love. It's so sad. Fantastic. Shep, you're going to be aware quite suddenly, like all this is going on, this little drama with Caspian and Lord Ashton is going on, and you're going to start hearing like screaming and commotion coming from the servants area. What do you do?
I'll head that way.
Yeah, there's a whole like, I mean, there's a lot of like chaos. There's like people like freaking out. Like I think even like as you're coming over there, I think even some people begin like running out and like pushing past you. Right, there's definitely something going on. So you're underway. Fantastic. Gunter, you're trying to get hold of Stenton and pull him out of this tentacled creature's arms, pull him back into this dry storage room. Give me a strength check. Do define nature strength.
That is a thing that... Oh, wait, no, I did the wrong thing. Okay, reroll selected. That is an 8, I think. Yes.
You are definitely going to get a hold of Stenton, and you are definitely going to pull him free from the tentacled creature, but not until I think like basically you get pulled into the little portal, and so now you're underwater for all intents and purposes, and you do manage to like wrench him free, and you're there, but you get pulled in a little bit. You're probably like a good like 20 or 30 paces away from the little opening of the portal, right? You've got him. The tentacled creature, it's very murky and dark, so you can't quite see what it is, but it's probably some kind of kraken or giant octopus, right? It's something like that. To your shock and horror, the portal is closing. You see the scene of the dry storage room is just like narrowing and narrowing and narrowing. What do you do?
I will... I still have Stenton with me?
You do. Yeah, Stenton's free, and this thing is still behind you. You don't know what it's going to do, but you've got Stenton. You got to get to that. You got to get to the opening before.
Okay, yeah, I'll swim towards that portal.
Okay, awesome. Give me a... Well, let's hold that thought. I'm gonna give me a defy danger con. Let's get that on the table.
All right. My con is 1. That is a 9.
A 9. Hold that thought. We'll come back to it.
Okay.
Meanwhile, Nico, there's a big walrus. It roars at you and launches forward. What do you do?
Can the beast still be stopped? Is it like already in like melee range?
It appeared immediately as soon as the jewel smashed. It just like popped into existence.
Yeah, I know, but the question is it already charged at me and we are in melee range, or is it still like
you can kind of pick it up wherever you wish. Like it can be a few paces away, or you can wait right till it gets close to you. It's up to you. Whatever you want.
Yeah. So I think we're gonna see Nico just like eject some clip that is very cold and just drops on the floor, and he like puts in a new one, aims at this lady, and he says, "Now I don't like animals, so I dare you to stop it before I have to freeze you entire, because I have to freeze you all, and don't close this thing yet." She
says, Well, roll parlay. Let's see how it goes. Defy danger charisma, I think. Do a defy danger charisma. See how persuasive you are with your threat.
Someone move my dice and Gilly.
You're basically going aggro here, right?
Yeah. Oh wow! But it's still a 9. No, I can no. My charisma is 0, so it's a 10.
Nice. She says, I can hold the portal, but I can certainly hold the portal, but the walrus is just a walrus, and he seems a little angry. She holds her hand up, and the portal is now stopped, right? So there's no Gunter, there's no danger of the portal closing on you right now, right? That's all good. The danger basically is that as you're swimming forward, tentacles appear on either side of you, right? A number of them, right? And they're just going to try to like reach down and grab you and pull you both back in. What do you do?
Just keep swimming.
Nice. If you get grabbed by a tentacle, I assume you'll try to just wrench it off and then continue the pace. Give me just defy danger strength.
All right. That is a 10.
Nice. Just give me the scene. How do you get out of the portal with there?
Yeah, so it's basically a shot of the outside if this was a movie, and then like you see Gunter holding Stenton shooting out of the portal and then landing next to the walrus.
Nice. Shep, when you arrive on the scene, you see Nico holding his device up to this woman. You see the very strange scene of this walrus there. Nico is very trained on this woman, and you see the walrus roaring, getting angry, ready to charge. What do you do?
Like my immediate thought is like, fucking Caspian Gaul brought a walrus because he thought it would be a cool party trick.
Why is it in the kitchen?
Why did he have a walrus here? Now it's pissed, and I'm gonna try and like mollify the walrus, because if it's just a walrus, like they're somewhat docile. Like I mean, you're down.
Yeah, you have like skill with animals. I like that. Give me a defy danger with wisdom.
Okay. Yeah, and I don't think. Well, yeah, I don't think that. I don't think Maud's going to be much help here.
Okay.
Or I can't think of a way that Maud would be of much help here.
Is Maud afraid and running away of this huge beast from?
It's not a monster, so she's not like freaking out like the worst, but awesome. Snake eyes.
Snake eyes. All right, we'll get to that in a minute. Meanwhile, back on the dance floor. So we basically it was Corwin with Lord Ashton, right?
Mm-hmm.
So Lord Ashton is dancing with you, Corwin. He's so, he's very handsome. What do you think about Lord Ashton, like just personally?
I'm rather taken with Lord Ashton. He seems quite pleasant company, and obviously takes pride in how very handsome he is.
He takes care of himself. Yeah.
I chose him out because I do think he has a lot of social connections. So he's a very useful contact for me to find.
Yeah, yeah. So you're doing this dance. It's what sorts of what kinds of things are you chit-chatting about? What's your small talk about?
So I think I'm trying to push him, like I said, into talking about the local nobility and the important people here. So frame it as like I'm new to town, I'm new to this area, and I'm interested to know all of the like most interesting flare-ups and feuds and things that have happened between people recently.
Nice. Give me a charisma roll.
It's an 8.
He says, and he's kind of chatting on. He's like, well, and he kind of says, surely you've heard of the theater, the Legerdemain.
No, like I said, I've just arrived here, but it sounds fascinating.
Well, there's a lot of really interesting things going on there. They're doing more than just putting on little shows, let me tell you. And then the scene kind of fades away as you guys go off, you know, pas de doing or whatever, right? And chatting and looking into each other's eyes. Aupri, in the meantime, what are you up to?
I think so. I see Shep and Maud run into the towards the kitchen, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Can I use?
You hear and you'll hear the commotion as well, right? And I'm imagining like what just happened with Corwin and Lord Ashton is maybe like kind of before all the yelling and screaming, right? So.
Can I use one of my focus to have a brief vision of the imminent future, as if I had discerned realities and asked what is about to happen?
Shep is about to be gored by a walrus. That's what is about to happen.
So now that I am in the know.
You are indeed in the know. I will give you a chance to react. Like maybe you can run up like right as Shep is getting ready to like make contact with the walrus, trying to calm it down.
I think so. They're in the kitchen, so I think I'm going to again walrus. So not like an evil beast. So I just want to like try to knock it out. So I'm going to use another focus to manipulate small objects. And I just want to take a cast iron pan and just like kind of like knock it over.
Jason, you're muted.
Nice. So here's the scene. I think. And
also Shep, the storage room, at the dry storage room.
In the dry storage, yeah, in the dry storage. I think the scene is like basically Shep, you go up to like, what's your approach? Are you trying to just like calm it down? Are you trying to like walrus whisper it here? Like what's going on?
Yeah, I think like it's, it seems upset, and I think it's upset because like it's just like in a place that it doesn't want to be. I have no idea that it just got like summoned here or materialized when it was previously angered or anything like that. I think it's just like temporarily upset. So I just try and come up, and I have my staff kind of like this. And I was just gonna try and like, make calming gestures and like stay quiet and like kind of push its tusks down because I think it's kind of rearing them up.
right. Like a horse tamer, like laying a horse down or whatever. Right? It's like the same idea.
More like trying to like pull like the bridle of a horse down.
Right. Yeah. I think basically that just doesn't go the way you want, and I think the thing just gets angry and shifts its bulk like towards you and on top of you, and it's kind of pinned you down a little bit, right? I'm gonna give you shaky debility just for now, and Aupri, that's when you walk in. You see the wall. It's a very strange scene. I'm gonna just point out how strange this. Just to remind you how strange this scene is. Nico has a gun on Seashell Masquerade Lady. There's a portal to a pocket ocean dimension, which you see Gunter and some young man you don't recognize, desperately trying to like get out of, splash their way out of. And there's a walrus on top of Shep. WTF, right? So you said you were going to try to knock the walrus out. Is that the idea?
Okay, so maybe instead of knocking him off, is there any way that we can guide this walrus into the portal?
Maybe, yeah. I mean, what do you think? I mean, what's your plan here?
How does one shepherd a walrus? Maybe I think I'm going to try to get the walrus's attention and run towards the portal. Get him to try to chase me or to lunge at me, and
nice.
Use some type of like telekinetic strike to sort of knock him off to the side and into the portal.
Okay, nice. Okay, so you're basically just going to try to like lure him. What do you try to do to lure him? Like he's on top of Shep. He doesn't look like he's going to like murder Shep or kill Shep necessarily, but just his bulk might crush Shep, right? So
I see. We're walking. I'm running through a kitchen, and I've seen this walrus, and so I just pull like a fish off of a steaming plate or something. It's someone's preparing, and I'm just like, waving it in front of his.
Trying to lure it. Yeah. Do a defy danger with intelligence for quick thinking.
That is a 7. Wait,
nice.
Intelligence. Sorry. That's an 8.
Okay, that works. you are going to definitely lure the walrus in, or lure the walrus away. That's going to get him off of you, Shep, which is a mercy. In the meantime, I'm going to check back in on that in a second. But Nico, what are you doing? Like, this is all happening super quick, right? This is all happening in a matter of seconds, right? But Nico, what are you doing? Like, as all this is going on, you're just keeping your device trained on her so she doesn't do anything crazy, or what?
Yeah, I suppose Nico isn't like very experienced in capturing other agents of other courts. So as soon as Gunter emerges from the sea portal, Nico just like shouts, "Gunter! Gunter! What do I do with her? The ice is melting. Do we want to capture her or let her go?"
Gunter is... Well, what the hell are you doing? Just kill her already.
You're still swimming, aren't you?
Well, once I get out.
Yeah, as you're kind of flailing around.
I rolled 10+ on my strength. If I remember correctly.
Yeah. Once you get out, you can definitely.
Yeah, once I get out.
Kind of yelling at each other this way, right?
Yeah.
And while Aupri is trying to lead the walrus over there and all this other stuff, it's a very chaotic situation, right? Nico, what do you do? Gunther's like just freezer or whatever you're.
Freezer! I right now.
With this like crossbow pistol. Yes, sir. I'm sorry, milady.
Try to blast her. Good treachery. Good. We'll get to that in a minute.
Mm-hmm.
So, Aupri, I want to just see how this stuff with the walrus goes. So the walrus, you're leading the walrus away. You know, Gunter and this young man are tumbling out of this like ocean portal, and like there's a bunch of screaming and stuff going on. You've got the walrus. You're trying to lure the walrus over there to the thing. You get the walrus over to the portal, no problem. That's not a big deal. The basic issue that you're going to have here is, so you were trying to basically like get it close enough to where you could like telekinetic strike it into the ocean. Is that the idea?
If it was in a lunging mood, then yes. If it's still following the fish, I'll just throw the fish into the portal and see if it follows the fish into the portal.
Right. Yeah. I think that's great. I think what's going to happen here is you are going to throw the fish into the portal. The walrus is going to follow it, and that's going to be fine. I think the problem here is going to be, and this might be a problem that Shep has to deal with, as you're doing that, as you're kind of like focused on the walrus, trying to like get it to come to you, throw the fish in there, see if it'll chase. While all that's going on, out of this pocket dimension, one of those tentacles has like slid out of the portal up above your head, right? Shep, you see this big, thick pink tentacle coming out of the portal. A danger to Aupri. What do you do?
I think I'm just going to really lean into this wild and unlikely scheme and try and hit Aupri's flag here, where just trying to make all this stuff happen. Like, and I'm just going to go full, like, there's no way this would work unless the stars align. And I'm going to try and get an arrow ready and pin that fish to the tentacle.
Nice. So you would shoot the fish into the tentacle so that the walrus like goes after the tentacle, or what?
Yeah, I think that's what's happening here.
Okay, nice. This is a really, it's a dexterity shot. Just give me a defy danger with dexterity.
Okay.
Not quite a volley because damage is not really what we're after here, right? So.
10.
Nice. This is going to go as in, just give me the whole scene here. Give me the whole scene with the walrus tentacle situation.
Like, just so I can more solidly hit Aupri's flag. Like, I think, like, I'm just about to try and fight the tentacle off, but then, like, I have this flash in my mind of, like, what Aupri would want to have happen. And I do it. Like, I just drop my spear and, like, quickly pull out an arrow and fire it very quickly. Like, there's no way this should work. And I'm almost like rolling my eyes, and then it works, and I just like drop my bow.
So like, what does the walrus do? Does the walrus just like leap for the tentacles? That was kind of
I think the walrus was just kind of like lumbering, you know, like they do, and then like it was gonna go for the fish, and then the fish like just went a little bit up, and so it just jumps a little higher and opens its maw and clamps down on the tentacle with the fish.
Nice. Nico, this woman, assuming this is the Phantom Court person, you actually don't know that for sure,
Yes.
but they are sort of like beast motifed though, so it's not a bad guess.
Just like
you have her held, and if you just shoot her if you guys have this like yelled conversation where Gunter says shoot her, and you're like, okay, she's gonna react, right?
Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
I know, but this is Nico. And by the way, what are the relations between the court? Are they like rivals, or are they like, I don't know, uncanny allies? Should we be killing their agents or not?
They are technically all part of the church, but they do interfere with each other constantly.
Okay.
Right? They each have their own agendas, right? And killing a Phantom Court member would be it would be a big problem, but it's not unheard of. So it would be, it's like the equivalent of like having to do a bunch of paperwork, right? At the end, right? Like there'd be a lot of like bullshit that somebody'd have to deal with for you killing her, right?
Yeah. It's perfectly fine with her being able to react, because it was a loud conversation. I was waiting for Gunter to tell me what to do. So
right. Yeah. So all right. So because you're yelling that with Gunter, Nico, she will be able to react, right? And I think as soon as you get ready to like, you know, fire, it looks like a gun, your little thing, I guess. It's kind of like a gun.
Yeah, like a crossbow mount, but on the mount is like a long barrel with like a coil around it, and at the end is like cable connecting this to something on the back.
Got it. So you're basically like going to pull, and I think basically as you do that, I think she has pulled out she's basically pulled out like a dirk, you know, like a short sword, like a stabby, pointy short sword. She pulls that thing out, and you got to cope with that too. So just give me a defy danger dexterity. If you shoot her quick enough, I'll let you just end this fight right now, since she's since she's held there, she has to kind of take the shot. But the danger, of course, is that she will defend herself if you fuck it up, right? So.
Yeah. If it ends up, I would like to aid with Maud jumping on her.
Oh, I like that. Yeah, we could. That can be happening in the fiction, but whether the roll comes off or not. What'd you get, Nico?
I'm pretty sure I pressed reroll. I got this 10 as well.
Okay, nice. Fantastic. So incorporating Maud into this, how does Maud help you pull this off, right? You're just gonna freeze her head and kill her.
Yeah, right? I think as she's grabbing the sword and trying to stab at me, Mo maybe just jumps on her and just holds her hand long enough so that I can freeze her head first, and then the hand just drops and Mo just lands softly on the floor.
Nice. The portal eventually will close up, and the situation is under control. Lord Ashton is going to tell you some very, very interesting things, Corwin. Some very, very interesting things that we will pick up next session.
All right.
They will have a bearing on the actual Legerdemain adventure next session. So, but just know that. I would like to know though, a little bit of epilogue here with Corwin. What? How do things go with Ashton at the end of the night? Or where does things? How do things proceed?
So I was sort of imagining, because, I'm still here on a job, and there's obviously going to be some sort of attack that's going to happen here at some point, and I need to be ready for that.
Right. Clearly.
So I think maybe we I convince him to sneak off into a deeper part of the house, because if there's going to be some sort of incident, it's not going to be on the dance floor. And we end up in a library, I think, sort of making out some, and I've got some of that snake's tears poison on a glove as I sort of slip my hand up his tunic and across his chest. Yeah. And as he's sort of sweating from that, I grab a paperweight or something and just try and knock him out. I'm not trying to kill him or anything. I don't know exactly how non-lethal damage works in Dungeon World.
Yeah, no, it's good.
But yeah, and then I'd go sneaking through the house looking for some sort of trouble and leave him with like a hangover and an impression that things got sort of hot and heavy before he forgot what happened.
Yeah, and indeed, because if you guys check the body of this woman, you will find on her arm, you will find the Phantom Court marking. Just to kind of summarize things here a little bit in the interest of time, Stenton is the secret lover of a young lady, a noble lady named Thessalina Rygal, and her father, in an attempt to sort of send a message to any other lowly people who might want to court his daughter, hired the Phantom Court to kill Stenton, right?
Yeah, and we bothered to stop the Phantom Court from doing that.
Doesn't matter. That's what your guys' mission was. Now, whether there's anything else going on with Stenton and young Lady Rygal, who knows? But the Shadow Court was mostly interested in just like, I think it could have just been a sort of like, we know the Phantom Court's up to something. We want to find out what they're up to, and let's go ahead and just put a wrench in it, right? All this stuff will almost certainly like affect future things going on. But that's the basics of what was going on there. After a mission, and this was a pretty straightforward, standard sort of Shadow Court mission, right?
Can I hit a flag real quick?
Oh yeah, what flag is that?
I think when we walk back out to Corwin, I think Aupri says, or as we're like walking back, I think she says, "I was wrong. You were right." And also, what was the thing I was going to do? I say, "You're a pretty skilled dancer," and I think that I recognize the dance from somewhere. And so perhaps locating Corwin in some sort of place and time.
I like that. So you recognize like a culturally or regionally specific sort of dance that I'd thrown in there.
Absolutely.
What's the flag that you're trying to hit?
Help me uncover details from my shattered memories.
Oh, nice. Yeah. That's pretty good.
Yeah, so I think as you point that out, it'll be a thing of like, oh, I've never been there, or I thought I hadn't. Thank you. Thank you for both.
She bows.
Nice. We might explore that a little bit further later. I like it. Normally, after a mission, Shadow Court sort of tradition or Shadow Court custom requires, even if it's not your personal custom, the Shadow Court like strongly encourages you to do the following. You have in every Shadow Courtiers in every city they operate in, they have what's called an anchor fire. This anchor fire is a location somewhere in the city where they go to be present, to sit with their thoughts for a little bit, to orient themselves in the world. And this is important because some Shadow Courtiers actually engage in work that actually has like a subtle influence on time and space, right? I don't know if any of you, well, Aupri's done some of this, but I don't know if the rest of you have. But basically the idea is you find your anchor fire to sort of collect your thoughts, to meditate, to prepare for another mission, or to reflect on the mission that just happened. This is a big part of Shadow Court culture. And importantly, one of the things that happens is the shadows that exist around the anchor fire, in whatever that anchor fire is, a lantern, a bonfire, whatever, something like that. Last series we had it was like a big lighthouse bonfire, right, in a tower, right? Like that was the person's anchor fire. The shadows that play on the walls and that exist in that space, they also whisper things. And part of Shadow Court culture, part of Shadow Court training is to also listen to what the shadows are saying, to listen to their whispers, right? And to glean truth from it. For next session, I will want you each, we're going to begin with each of you describing where your home, your anchor fire is in Eagle's Reach, what it looks like, what's found there, why is it important to you? And then there's a custom move associated with being in that space as well, which we'll talk about at that time. But that is your homework for next session. I want to just go around the table and do a little bit of an epilogue for this little tiny mission adventure thing. You know, Lord Caspian Gall was looking for love. We have a connection now with young Lord Ashton, which may play which is going to play out in a certain way next time. And then you have this issue with Stenton. You have the Phantom Courtier body, all that stuff. I think I just want to go around the table and just find out what you're each doing at the end of the mission. And if you have any questions about that, or if any natural follow-up questions happen, we'll work it out right now. But whoever wants to go, just right at the end, like, what does this look like? What are you doing?
Does Stenton have any wounds that need to be tended?
Sure.
All right.
Maybe he got like
because
some
I have because I'm gonna lay on hands him, and if I roll a 10+, I get a free DR.
Oh, on Stenton. Oh, so you can kind of like learn more about him.
Yeah.
I like that. I'm not interested in the roles right now, so okay. I'm just gonna let you I'll let you just ask a question for free if that's okay.
Okay. I need to look at the DR list, so can you go to someone else?
I will indeed. Who else wants to tell us at the end of the mission here what it looks like? Corwin, you've already told us a little bit of yours, but do you have any more thoughts?
Yeah, I think there's just sort of a smile on Corwin's face as we're exiting this place, and I think there's like a camera shot back to the shadowy library where Lord Ashton was, and he's like tied, not very tightly and just by like one hand and one ankle, but sort of playfully tied to a chair with that rope that I'd swung off of. And I think his doublet is sort of undone. He just finds like that gauntlet, that glove of mine, sort of there under his clothes next to his chest. I think just a sort of connection bit for the future.
Yeah, I like it.
So my question is, sorry. My question is gonna be, what here is not what it appears to be?
Very, very good question. As you are laying hands on Stenton, you will notice that Stenton has maybe you just glimpse down his like shirt or whatever as you're kind of tending to him. But on his chest, he has tattooed a very, very like strange, intricate pattern, symbols, shapes, letters and words you don't recognize straight away, but it looks incredibly complex and detailed for just a person who works in a kitchen, right? There's something special about it. I'll give you a chance to follow up on that next time.
Okay.
Any other mini epilogues?
I think maybe it's not like an epilogue of the party, but I think we will already see Nico back at his home, his workshop. He just takes from his pocket the remains of this shell that she broke and that summoned the beast. Yeah. And with like a microscope, like a zoom in glass, he like inspect this, because I have a move to inspect something that is interesting. But I think the only question I would like to ask is to add something to the fiction is like, who made this?
Yeah. This is, so on the interior of the shell, basically in this world, like wizards and sorcerers, like people of great power, they often like leave a small or subtle mark, almost like a painter who like signs their painting, right? Mm-hmm. And you'll see the mark of the wizard who created this magical device. It's not a name. It's just a symbol. We can talk about it next time, but I'll definitely give you a chance to follow up on that. Like if you wanted to like go confer with that person and learn something from them or whatever. So.
Yep, we'll see.
Fantastic. Aupri, what about you?
I think Aupri heads back to the party. So in this sort of sense that she can't, that she's a little bit shattered, I think that she hides that by surrounding herself with people. And so she goes into this party and just like dances the rest of the night away, so that she doesn't have to go back. And yeah.
Nice. I like it. Shep, what about you?
Shep watches everyone else like depart from the room where like this confrontation has happened. And he kind of like rolls his eyes and then looks down, and Maud is like sitting there like looking up at him. And he kind of like pats his shoulder, and Maud like jumps up. And then he has to do what he has to do working for the Shadow Court. He has to like remove the tattoo from the Phantom Court for plausible deniability.
Sure.
And then as he just wants to leave the party, and then Gaul like comes up and is like hounding him, and he just like points to the room wherever that guy was left tied up, and he's just like, he's in there, like, I don't care. And then he just proceeds to his anchor fire. Like he just leaves the party and goes to his anchor fire.
Nice. I think at a certain point, I think Lord Ashton, I think somebody would have found Lord Ashton, maybe because he came with a bunch of people, right? We said he had a bunch of people with him. And somebody would have like I think basically they would have gotten Lord Ashton out of there before Lord Gaul could find him. And the party ends, and we just kind of see Lord Caspian in his room. It is very big and ostentatious, right? His bed is like almost ludicrously large, right? There is like a little stair step for him to even like get up into it. Even for a normal sized person, it's big enough to where like maybe 3 or 4 people could sleep comfortably across it, right? Huge canopy, right? Big, like sort of like burgundy silk, canopy, over the 4-poster, bed. And he's all dressed in his pajamas. He's a little drunk. He slips underneath the bed covers. His servant kind of kind of sees if he needs anything else, and then he doesn't, and so he leaves. And then Lord Caspian just like rests his head on his pillow, and just sobs gently until he falls asleep.
Oh no, spoiled rich kid.
Hey, he worked for all of his money. But there's one thing that money can't buy, sadly. And that's the heart of Lord Ashton. Let's go ahead and do our end of session stuff. All right. Did everybody, I know people were pretty actively hitting flags. Anybody, if you hit a flag, just call it out and just remind us all and mark your XP.
I don't know if I totally go. Well, I ended up convincing Aupri to trust me some, so I think I hit that one.
Sounds good. Any other flags?
I think I helped Corwin uncover details from his shattered memories.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, you did do that. Awesome. Any other flags?
I tried to take some license and hit Aupri's participate in wild and unlikely schemes with me when we're in a pinch.
Right, yeah,
I don't know if Aupri wants to accept that or not. Up to Aupri.
Good, but what do you think, Aupri? You're muted. Okay, yeah, it's an odd. Okay, that's good. Mark an XP. Nico, I know you purposely lined up one. What was yours?
I hit Corwin, asked me to do something daring and acrobatic.
Oh yeah, that was a good scene.
Yeah,
Cool.
and I'm not sure because I if I hit anything from Gunter, because I sort of helped him when he was cold. I made sure that the portal will not close, even though the beast was ready to charge me.
Yeah.
Awesome. I mean, you just get credit for one of them, but
okay.
There's just 1 XP at stake, but yeah.
So you can get only 1 XP per session for flags, yes?
Yeah, 1 XP for flags. Yeah.
Oh,
okay. They're fun to hit just for role-playing purposes, but XP, there's only ever 1 XP at stake.
Okay.
Gunter, what about you?
No flags, no alignment.
All right, let's read alignments. Help someone take impulsive, even reckless action. Yeah, that didn't quite work. Nico, use a gadget in a new and surprising way that wasn't meant. I don't know. Have you ever froze someone's head off?
Kind of yes and no, because it describes that these are usually weapons meant to deal damage, and I sort of like try to more like immobilize someone, but I'm not sure if it counts.
Yeah. I thought it was a good scene, so I'll give you the XP for it just because it was kind of fun. Aupri, upset a relationship to see what happens. Yes.
I think the dance, the
dancing stuff. That's right. Yeah. That's right. The whole thing with Lord Ashton and Lord Caspian, which had nothing to do with the mission, but was nevertheless amusing. Right. I'm into that. Let's continue on. Shep, what is the text of yours?
Help an animal or spirit of the wild. I sure tried to help that walrus.
You did, I know. Yeah, you definitely did, because you could have just like killed it, right? You could have just attacked it. So yeah, mark an XP. Corwin, avoid detection or infiltrate a location. Yeah, kind of in a way.
I was trying to go with infiltrate there at the end, even though the plot had already finished. I was still sort of following it.
Yeah. I mean, the whole thing was an infiltrate. The whole thing was definitely like a sort of infiltration. Like everything you learned has bearing on Legerdemain, not necessarily what was going on just then. Okay. But that all works for me, and we'll talk about that in more detail later. Group questions. Does anybody have it open? I don't have it in front of me.
Did we learn something new and important about the world?
Yes, that will be next week. But you did. But Lord Ashton will have shared some really juicy things. Go ahead, Mark. XP.
Did we defeat a notable monster enemy?
Yes, that would be the Phantom Courtier. You can mark an XP. This is everybody.
And did we loot memorable treasure?
Oh yeah, I think the little the casings of the little shell thing, little shell bead thing that she smashed. I think that counts, and possibly in a sort of weird way, Stenton also. He's not a treasure per se, but you definitely there's definitely something weird going on there, right? Like you don't just hire the fucking Phantom Corp to kill your daughter's like secret lover, like secret, like that was clearly like not what was going on, and also confirmed when you saw this like strange tattooed pattern on Stenton's chest, right? So he is a treasure of sorts, right? I think it's in the spirit of it. In any case, it's going to lead to something interesting. Fantastic. Oh, look at that. We are right on time. So yeah, we didn't get to do the anchor fires. I'd hoped to get the anchor fires done as well this session, but we'll do it the first thing next session. It's always a really fun little kind of like process. We've done it one other time before, and it was always really enjoyable. But basically, the idea is you sit by this fire, and it's basically like a little solo dictated scene as we kind of like see your character kind of in repose or whatever, right? Like or just kind of being by themselves. We learn a little bit about like what they're interested in and kind of how they interact with the world, right? So but yeah, I will look forward to seeing you guys next week. I'm not going to do debrief today because I think maybe we'll do debrief next time. We'll try to do it next time. But any other questions before we go?
I just want to ask Gunter or Corwin, because you have flag like make it dangerous for me to help you. Any idea how can we hit this flag? Because it's very hard for me to imagine this.
Well, just like in the situation we had, if like you had dived in closer to the tentacles and started grappling with them, or gotten right up close to the walrus, just the way I sort of see it is put yourself in more danger, so it's also dangerous for whoever comes to get you.
Okay.
So kind of like what happened to Shep and Aupri, but to either of us.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, I like that. I mean, make it dangerous so I can help you. I mean, it sounds like basically just like, like maybe like even coming up with a very dangerous plan almost or something like that. Seems like a good move there, but
yeah.
Yeah, but the dangerous plan also hits one of my other flags, but whatever. You only get 1 XP per flag.
Yeah. Well, you guys might decide that, like, you know, as you're playing, you might decide that, like, you want to change the flags based off the group dynamic and stuff too, and that's totally cool as well. So they're not like fixed in time; like you can change. So.
Yeah, I may look at finessing them going forward.
Yeah, it's no big deal. It always takes a session or two to kind of get all that stuff kind of finagled out. Any other questions before we go? Fantastic. All right, well, I thought you guys were great. I had a wonderful time. I'm excited to get started on the actual Legerdemain portion next week. Yeah, I've got nothing else.
Thank you very much, Jason.